This lane, this lane, this lane, this lane. I think.
I would like to challenge Matt Bozak.
Scotty Bull.
Jason Belmasi.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. This is one of those shows where I kind of wish that you were along for the ride with me about 15 minutes before we started. Our guest tonight has got some spectacular stories. He's already told me a few. I can't wait to get to him. Let me just plug my sponsor before we start, and then we'll get right to it. Chip Magnet Salsa. That is the greatest salsa in Wisconsin, possibly the world. I'll go on record and say that. They support Bowling with the Fef. They have for, a couple of years now. They're based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, distributing to grocery stores in more than 38 states and Canada. If you go online to chipmagnetsalsa.com and order $30 or more worth of product, they will and enter this promo code when you check out BWTF2024. They will give you 25% off your purchase, and there's no limit there. So if you haven't tried Chip Magnet yet, that's a great opportunity. They've got plenty of flavors, hot, medium, and mild. Basically good for any salsa lover out there, or lover of, chips and salsa, eggs and salsa. It's all good. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. And as always, thank you so much, Chip Magnet, for sponsoring Bowling with the Fef. Derek Michaud here with the W. I guess that's a win. I'll take it for now. But like I said, a great guest coming up tonight, a PBA champion 4 times over. He's a Pennsylvania State USBC Hall of Famer, Army veteran. And I'm telling you, he's got the personality that jumps right off the page. He is Joe Hutchinson, coming to us from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Hutch, welcome to Bowling with the Fef.
Hey, what's going on, Fef?
Not much.
Everything is well here, as good as could be expected.
Okay, glad to have you. Like I said, this is one that I've been looking forward to. We've had some scheduling conflicts trying to get to this for a couple of years now, but no time like the present. You were telling me beforehand about the fact that your journey in bowling is more realizing a dream than anything. And that's a special thing for any of us. But is there any way, as you look back, to kind of get your arms around that or compartmentalize what that's meant to you over the years?
Well, at this stage of my life, I'm 74. 2 years ago, I had cancer. Never thought that was going to happen when I was 71. I thought it was pretty much clear of the things, but whatever happened. So now I sound like a cheap ripoff of Rod Stewart, but I was never compared to Mario Lanza either. So we're in between there. But you get here and you start reflecting back, and it's so hard for me to believe that, you start in the junior league and I love bowling. I watched all the bowling shows in the late 50s, early 60s, championship bowling, Bowling with the Stars, jackpot bowling, make that spare. I knew all the guys. So when I went on the PBA Tour in 1975, I knew them. I had a historical background of my own. I knew the champions and everything, and it was really. But when I think back now, and I talk to a lot of the younger guys now that are very polite. They remember when I bowled well. Now I'm just I'm a victim of the flat 10, but and then I make a mistake and catch one, and it's a solid 9, and then I want to put my head in the ball return after you throw it. But it's just it's one of them things. But anyway. You start bowling in the junior league, and I'm coming home after, and I got to tell you this honestly. I used to snatch $1 out of my father's wallet or my mother's purse, and I go back down and bowl 3 more games. It wasn't like some of my buddies were going for cigarettes or going for beer. I was going down the lanes and bowling again, and I would come right back at 3:30 and have the TV on and stuff like that. So I'm watching these guys, and Schenkel's there, and Whaley was the early guy, and then Burton later, and I'm me and my buddy used to go bowling. We used to make believe all the time that we were bowling the pros, doubles. And, me and him were bowling Weber and Carter or Hardwick and somebody else. Of course, we never lost, no matter what we bowled. But it was, but I said to myself years later, I said that, what are the chances of me ever being in the same building with them? I'm Scranton, Pennsylvania. There's no bowling tournaments and pro tournaments in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The closest we ever came was a pro tournament in Wind Gap, and it was won by Kurt Schmidt. There was a couple pro tournaments in Altoona. I think they were won by Weber and Godman, and they were really difficult. There were some pro tournaments in Pittsburgh and stuff, but that I was there. But they weren't that close. Of course, Philadelphia probably had the All-Stars, but I wasn't going to any of them, right? So what are my chances of meeting them? Yeah. So then we go, I'm in the building with them, and then I was, what are the chances I'm ever going to bowl on the same lanes as they do? And you just keep going up and going up to the point where, what are the chances of them, of me going to Carmen Salvino's house and having dinner with him and his daughter, or going to Don Carter's house and having eaten there with, and him watching me bowl? Maybe because we both bent our elbow. I don't know, but he was. After I won in Peoria in 1980, that sounds to younger people watching it. That sounds like, like the check should have been like in hieroglyphics or something. I tell you what, I can remember it like it was yesterday, because unfortunately I'm okay there. But he says to me at the bowling center in Kendall, he goes, Hutch. He goes, Hutch. Hey, Hutch, have you seen your show yet? Because I had met him in Tamarack a couple of years before. We only bowled there the one time, and I said, no. I said, I didn't, Mr. Carter. And he says, would you want to see it? And he says, come on back to the house. He says, and his mother made lunch for him and I, and two of my buddies were there. They were my best friends still, Bobby and Phil Rossi. They were both involved in professional baseball. Well, Carter was in the St. Louis Cardinals minor league system, and they just hit it off. The three of them hit it off big time with baseball. But I walked into his trophy room. I don't know. What words beyond spectacular?
Yeah.
Beyond belief? And he's, and he's just pointing at them. This is this, and this is that. There's 4 All-Stars. There's 5 World's Invitationals. There's, I think the national doubles he might have won, but then there's the 6 PBA tournaments. There's the Masters tournament. There's the PBA National. And this is when you were getting trophies that actually held together. Like you didn't pick them over your head like Pete did it. And the eagle decided to fly off. But the eagle, it had been pushed out of the nest by its mother right to the ground. So, I mean, these are things that happen. But it might. Here I am now. And I think about that. And I see that, the game has changed drastically. It's there's been changes all along, and then changes, even though maybe you don't like them, progress is what it is. And the guys today are tremendous, just like the guys were. But it's here. I'm very flattered that people even remember me. It's a very flattering thing because, like I told you, the thing, only having won 4 times, I see myself as a serious underachiever. But then I said, I know a lot of guys that won 3, 2, and 1, and I know thousands there's thousands and thousands and thousands that have bowlers that never won 1 time. Yeah, not won 1 time, and I guess I did okay. Yeah. I never saw myself as doing okay because, if I always, anything I took, a sport like this, I went out there to be the best ever, and I felt terrifically short. But for 4 weeks and a couple other weeks, I got, when you win the pro tournament, I'd have to say that was a great job that week. So I had 4 weeks of touching greatness, just touching, that. I don't know if you ever saw the thing on Lombardi on the NFL channel. Okay. And Bart Starr talks about his speech when he first addresses the Packers.
Where he talks about chasing excellence.
Chasing perfection.
Perfection and catching excellence along the way.
Yes, he will. Yeah. He said, we'll chase it forever, but we will never He said, but as long as we chase it, we will touch excellence. And that's basically what it is. I mean, the Walter Rays and Norms and Parker and Earl, of course, Earl, my God, how can I forget Earl? Mark, Marshall. They, when you're the guy, just to be bowler of the year, not bowler of the decade, bowler of the year is crazy. I mean, it's crazy, you know. And I mean, the highest I was ever ranked was 9th. And I mean, and I was so, you know, I bowled pretty well. And I kept seeing myself like, God, I'm still 9 guys away or 8 guys away from being number 1. And Tom Corris, remember Tom?
Don't.
Tom Corris is the gentleman that wrote Par Bowling, and he was one of the top coaches in the country. And me and Charlie, and we got to know him really good. He's a character, but he was a beautiful guy out of Chicago. Yeah. And I was explaining to him. He congratulated me on being on a second team All-American. And he says to me, "Hey, Hutch, that's pretty good." You know, I went, "Yeah, second team, not first team." And I'm going like this. He says, "Hutch, you're ranked 9th in the world." Mm-hmm. And I just looked at him. I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Hutch, PBA Tour guys." He said, "There's nobody coming from 9th, not like now. Like Jason's in Australia and Dom is in England and who's this is from Finland." And, you know, there was only a couple guys that ever come over internationally when I was there. He said, and when you think about that, he says, and anybody can be written in, even the guys that have a great ABC tournament, national tournament, they can be written in for, you know, to be on the team. And he says to me, not bad. And it took a while, but as I, you know, reflect back, you know, I was in the top 10 for a couple of years, like, you know, maybe 2 years or something. And like I said, I always see myself as, I didn't do that well, but then I'm very flattered when the other guys, you know, like Johnny Petraglia, guys like that talk about me. They throw that G word in there with me, which I don't think I deserve, but they do, you know. And it's unbelievable to think, you know, it's 1975. It's 49 years since I bowled my first tournament. 49 years. There's a lot of people, you know, if you're 49 years old and you're on the tour now, you're past your time. You got to be looking at the senior tour. Right. But I mean, it's 49 years ago that I went to Pittsburgh to bowl my first tournament. And the first tournament I bowled, I crossed with Roy Buckley, who just passed. God damn it. Richie Kruba was also passed. And a gentleman from Pittsburgh named Bob Heminger. At the time was one of the top amateur pro bowlers, but amateur guys in Pittsburgh. I think he had 4 or 5 300 games that year. 1975, there weren't a lot of guys having 5 300 games in a year. No. And I was starstruck. Sure. You know, and Buckley, I got to tell you some things about Roy. Yeah. I would have to, that comedian, Stephen Wright, you know, the guy comes out and he real dry and the hair frizzy and stuff like that. Yeah, you think he's dry? Buckley was the martini that Hawkeye was always looking for. Yeah. I don't remember Roy cracking a joke. But he was hysterical. You had to know him, right? So anyway, we're bowling, and at the start of the tournament, he just gives you that little touch. You know, he goes like, "Let's get him," and then he doesn't say nothing. So about the 4th game or so of the block, and I'm sitting on the end of the bench, and I can't. I mean, Salvino's over here, and Stefanich is over here, and Weber's over here, and Hardwick over here, and I'm looking. All of a sudden, you know, I get this tap on my shoulder. I got my name shirt on, right? I got this tap on my shoulder. Okay. I turn around, it's Roy Buckley. He looks at me, he takes the towel away from his mouth, and he says real quiet, "Are you Hutchinson?" And I went, "Yeah." He says, "You're up." And he turns around and walks away. He doesn't say a word for me for the rest of the day. I was up. I didn't know it because I was watching, right? Yeah. Second tournament, I go to Buffalo. I cross with Roy Buckley, Rich Karuba, and Tommy Kress. We're starting the first block, and I give him a knuckle bump. And he looks at me, he goes, "Remember." That's all he said to me, "Remember." And he walks away, and he don't talk to me for like the next 18 games. Oh my gosh. I mean, I got to know him. And when I got to know him, he was beyond funny. Yeah. He was beyond funny. One of the great stories about Buckley, and people, he's not in the USBC Hall of Fame. I hope he goes in this year. He may go in this year.
He's not?
No, he's in the PBA Hall of Fame, which is crazy.
Okay.
But he's. I think he's got 2 or 3 eagles, and he's. One year they lost the classic team event by a pin, and I think another year they lost by 2 or 3 pins. So he could have 4 or 5 eagles. But anyway, he's bowling with Barry Asher, Norm Myers, Nelson Burton Jr., and Bud Horn, and I think there were Munsingware was a sponsor. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But this is something that I got cheated out of. Me and Charlie, Tommy Baker, we got cheated out of this. They stopped having the classic division.
Oh.
So we never got to bowl the classic. I might have loved to bowl that. I mean, and you win that, and not that was easy to win because it was all pros. You get an eagle, and they had classic singles, classic doubles, all that stuff. We got cheated out of that, because they had that time when pros weren't allowed to do this, and then pros weren't allowed to go to Team USA. Now they're allowed to go all that stuff and have them shot at them gold medals. I don't know that I'd have been in that with Roth and Holman and Anthony and them guys there at the time. But hey, maybe. You don't know.
Never know.
We had a chance. Anyway, so Norm Myers, God love him. I got to know him really well. Everyone said that his claim to fame was he was the brother-in-law of Dick Weber. Norm was a heck of a bowler. He won on a tour. I think 2 times for sure, maybe 3 times. He had the misfortune of having to bowl his brother-in-law for the title, or on TV, and he came up a little short. But so have hundreds and hundreds of other guys. So anyway, 10th frame, and Barry's telling me this story, and Norm was the baron of micromanagement. Okay. When he got up to bowl, I can still see him at the ball return with a towel on the fingers and looking at every pin. Is the 1 in line with the 5? Is the 3 in line with the 9? The 2 with the 8? Something's a little off, and he's overlooking. And when I first went on tour, it was unlimited re-racks.
Oh,
unlimited. Just keep pressing the button if you don't like it, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be watching. So anyway, Buckley, who never really paid much attention, really, I mean, he just came up, he's droll, just so droll. He comes up, he had that towel, he puts it over rack, and Barry tells me that the 7-pin, Norm tells him the 7-pin is off in the rack.
Okay.
And it was a time when you had to step up onto the return, so they were a little higher up, and Barry says Norm is telling him, can't believe he's going to shoot. I can't believe he didn't see it. It's going to be hard to strike. If it's late, he won't carry, and blah, 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 blah. So Buckley gets up, and he gets in that classic like this, and he looks like the Sphinx. He's going to runs up, snow plows to stop. He hung at the end of the approach, took 5 steps, and just almost straight as a string, just a little hook, flush, 10 pins, horizontal, right in the pin. Comes walking back, grabs his towel, standing there. Rack comes down. Norm says to Barry, my God, it's worse than before. He said, he can't, I got to say something. Buckley looks, that face, up he goes, right? Flush, 10, back, nothing, no problem. So now the 3rd rack comes up, and everything, I guess, is okay because Norm isn't saying nothing. And Roy gets in his address position, and out of nowhere turns to Norm. And Norm and Barry are sitting there, and Buckley looks right at Norm and goes like this. How's that 7-pin look now, Norm? Turns around, goes right to his approach, 10 back. And Barry told me, Hutch, I never laughed so hard in my life.
Oh my gosh.
He picks up the towel on the way back, stops, looks at Norm, and he goes like this. If there's 10 up, I'm shooting. Walk away. I mean, this is this guy. Yeah. We're in. I gotta say, we're going here now. I gotta say this. Tournament. We bowl the Buckeye Lanes in Cleveland. Yeah. Motel across the street, the Columbia Terrace. Restaurant is called the Golden Ox Restaurant Bar. And I got to know a couple of the guys. They invited me over to eat, and it was very flattering. There was a who's who basically of bowling. Yeah. Don Johnson was there. George Pappas. Davy Jones, a very good bowler out of South Carolina, hung around with George. Cliff McNeely, Don Bell, Paul Colwell, not bad, and myself. Yeah. And Roy Buckley is at the bar by himself, dressed. He's on Munsingware's staff. He's got these brown Sansa bell-bottom pants on. He's got a Munsingware sweater on. He's got a Munsingware shirt on, the collar's out. They got the little penguin. And he has the Florsheim shoes on, the 2-tone browns with the zipper up the side. And I'm just, this is him. and he's got a drink and he's stirring it with the little red thing and he's stirring it. There's a discussion at the table, and it's the question is, when you now think of the equipment we were bowling with.
Right.
We're bowling with pancake. Urethane's not even out at the time. The question is, if you go to the next pair and you make your opening delivery on the first lane and you rip the rack, like you blow the 5-pin into the 7-pin, that, but just, you're right. But next time on the lane, do you move? Do you move a board right? Do you change something? Do you move, or do you take a chance on it again? Because most guys line up flush. They don't, even though you're lining up flush, but you keep getting a light hit. A guy says, "Boy, I'd like to throw it there all day." But okay. So they kind of like, it's no. So Paul Colwell goes over to Roy Buckley and says, "Hey, Bucks," and he poses the question to him. And it's probably 15 seconds now. 15 seconds don't sound like a lot of time. Somebody's hitting you in the head with a wiffle bat. It's a long time. Right. I'm late because I said wiffle bat. Real bad. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And he's looking, and all of a sudden he goes, "Well," and everybody's hinging on what he says. And Buckley turns around. He says, "Don't rush me now." I said, "Just trying to think the last time I moved to another pair and ripped the rack." And he's serious. He's looking, and Don Johnson, who had one of the greatest laughs in the world, just breaks out in this hysterical, Midwestern laugh, this high pitched hee. And I mean, and Colwell comes walking back and everything. We went to eat, and it was, but I mean, this was, this was him. And, when he died, it was just terrible. And Louis Moore put a great post on that the greatest bowler in the history of Columbus, Ohio, had passed. And I called Barry. I said, "Barry, what do you say about Bucks being the greatest bowler in the history of Ohio?" And he says to me, "Hutch, Harry Smith was born in Ohio." Yeah. I said, "Okay, I understand." So puts Bucks number 2. But because Harry was great. Oh, Harry Smith was. There's a couple guys that I never saw bowl live. I mean, on the tour. I never saw Carter. I never saw Smitty. I saw Fazio bowl. He bowled once, but the earlier guys like Joe Joseph, I bowled Glenn Allison. I saw Glenn bowl. But I mean, Carter, I didn't see him bowl, but and Smitty was done too. Even though they bowl some great and greatest and some other stuff, I never actually saw Carter throw a ball in any kind of tour live. Okay. But oh my God, I mean, Smitty, he's an assistant tournament director, and that famous story of, the broken pencil story, right?
I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it, but entertain us, humor us.
Smitty is the guy that comes up to me after, and I'm the guy that at the end of the story with what happens. And Mark Baker and Sam Macarone, who still are laughing about this thing.
Yeah. Well, take it from the top though, because I took the initiative to pull out a picture of this is Woodland Bowl from earlier last year. Yeah. So I mean, you can kind of see what the building is like. I'm sure it wasn't like that then, but at least you got kind of vantage point.
I'm pointing to it now, but if there's a gentleman right here with white hair and a blue shirt.
Okay, sure, right up front.
Okay, so if you go down in front where the house balls are kept.
Yep.
That looks like a triangle. Yeah. Well, where the end of the approach is, there was a tremendous amount of concourse room.
Yeah.
And anyway, I could only go so far, so can you say anything on here?
Yeah. Go ahead. This is the internet.
Yeah. Well, all right, because there's a couple swear words involved here. But anyway, okay. I was having a very difficult time, and to this day, I have a very difficult time with certain spares. I just do, and they've cost me a lot of money. The 2.5, the 3.6, and the 6.10. Yeah, I take the front pin off, and I'm pretty sure there's thousands of other bowlers can tell you the same thing. Mm-hmm. But I was going through a funk, especially with the 6.10. I couldn't make it if I threw a barbell down. It was stupid. I kept taking the 6 off, not wrapping it around, straight back. Yeah. All right. So anyway, Mark's story is a little askew, shall we say, Bakes. I like the word askew. I never get to use it in a crossword, but I remember I had chopped it like twice in the first 4 games. In the 10th frame of the 5th game, I'm on a strike, and I'm close to the finals, and I need again. Whatever. I'm trying too hard. I overhit it, 6.10, and got we didn't have spare balls because they didn't need one, but I had a rubber ball there, and it was a Brunswick Black Beauty. And I mean, I was a lot younger. I could throw the ball harder. And I just threw it as hard and straight as I could at the 610. As soon as I let it go, my rear end just shut. My rear end goes like this. I mean, if I colonoscopy today, I'm sorry, we'll have to postpone until tomorrow because nothing's going.
Yeah.
And it takes the 6 straight back in the corner when it doesn't touch the 10. I mean, they both go in the corner. I turn around, I could feel the heat going up at me like I guess before Mount St. Helens erupted. And I'm just, wow. I come back and I grab the sheets and I go over to it was a blank pair. And I crumble the sheets. I got the pencil. They had the thick pencils. They weren't the real skinny ones, but they were probably about 3/8 of an inch thick. And I write my score down and whatever. And I put the pencil down at my side. And Mark says that I had to put the pencil between my fingers. I didn't. I put my thumb against the pencil. And I just put it down here. The God's honest truth. Now, I'm at the seat in the settee where the scorers are. Okay. So there's all this distance behind me. Then there's a step up where people would walk. Yep. Then there's where the house balls are. And then there's that triangular thing.
Yeah.
And then the people are sitting behind. The people are sitting behind that.
Sure.
So I got to be, I don't know how, I got to be 15 feet away or at least 12. But it's crazy the distance. Yeah. And I snapped it. I push the pencil down and I snap it down this way. And I throw it away and I get another pencil and I start writing. Mark comes over.
Baker, this is.
Oh, who else could it be?
Yeah.
I mean, and he comes over and he's massaging my shoulder. He's going, "Hey, Parge, you better." Right? And I said to Mark, "You got to get away from me now because I really don't want to talk." And he says, "No, you don't understand." I said to him, "Mark, get the F away from me." I said, "Please." I said, "Right." I said, so. And I don't know what's happened. So I get to the next pair, and him and Sam Macaron are absolutely hysterical. So I come over and I'm like, "Oh, this is really a riot." I mean, because they're laughing about this spare. And I don't have no idea what they're laughing at. None. Mark says to me, "Remember when you broke the pencil?" I went, "Yeah, I broke a pencil. So what?" He said, "Well, it went down and it hit the ground and it went backwards." And okay. He said, "You see the guy looking at you?" Yeah. Well, the lady next to him might be his wife, and the point hit her between the eyes. And of course, I look over, and the guy's staring holes at me. Yeah. And I said to Mark, "That's impossible." Yeah, look at him. So we had a couple minute wait before I go walking over, and man, I mean, he's just giving me them hard eyes, and I walk over, and I mean, I came over very apologetic. I don't even know if it's what they said is the truth or not, but I said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "But my friends have told me that when I broke that pencil, they said to me it inadvertently come up and hit your wife." And he screams at me. "You hit her between the F and I's." Oh, like I hit her, like I turned around like I was throwing a darts in England. Right? And I look, and I swear to God, there's a black mark here, like a needle point. And I went, "Oh my God." And Mark said, it actually stuck there for a split second and it fell. So now I said to him, "Well, I me being now trying to show a little bit of common sense, I said to him, 'Sir, you have to realize that I couldn't possibly have done that on purpose.'" Right. I said, "You have to understand that. I mean, it's just," and he, next thing you know, he screams at me. "You almost took her eye out." I mean, let's be serious. She has glasses on anyway. So I couldn't, right. But I mean, I can't say that to him because he's ready to jump over it, right? So after I apologize a couple times, he's unrelenting. And I said to him more or less, "If you think I'm going to do anything oral to you," I said it a little different. I said, "You're out of your effing mind." And I walked away. That's the way it was. Okay, so I go back. Yeah. And I'm telling Mark and Sam. And now Sam Macaron, I don't think he's laughed this hard ever in his life. So here comes Smitty later. And he's bouncing down the thing. And he comes down. "Bakes, Sammy, baby, Hutchy, kid, how you doing?" This is the way he was. Yeah. And I get Smitty, and he's looking at the guy over my shoulder. He doesn't know what about him. And I explain the situation to him. And I said, if he says anything to you, give me the slip for $100 and I'll sign it. But after I told him, when I'm telling this, yeah, this minute he goes, really? Yeah, he's going, you're kidding. Then when I told him where it hit her, he goes like that, oh, that's a heck of a shot. And I'm going, no, I said, Smitty, you don't understand. I said, it hit her between the eyes.
Yeah.
And I apologized 10 times. And now Smitty don't know what I said. And he goes like this, well, Jay Hutch, what did he expect for you? Some kind of an oral favor? Just like, I mean, he said it the way I said it.
Right.
And Mark and Sammy heard it. Now it goes crazy. and Smitty goes bouncing by the guy, and the guy never said a word to him. And that's the God's honest truth. That is the truth. That's what happened. Now, I didn't see the pencil go back. Mark saw that. But Mark tells the story great. He said it was like, what's the movie with Keanu, The Matrix? He said, here it's going like, and it keeps going. Everybody's watching. All of a sudden, it goes like pink, here. And he says, here's Mark, her eyes crossed, and they're looking, and whoop, it comes down. She's found the guy.
I'm thinking of Seinfeld, when the episode where Keith Hernandez spit on Kramer, and and they're like, it would have had to go like this.
Yeah, the magic bullet theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I can't imagine how it got there and bounced up. Yeah. But yeah, that's the true from my point. After Mark and Sam saw how the pencil went. I didn't see that. Yeah. Every other word is exactly. I mean, it was a couple of little alternates because it'd be nice, but I just went over. But I tried to do the right thing, and I understand that he was irate, but it was, I did nothing on purpose. But it was the tour was a lot of fun. I tell you what, I'd like to say a couple of things about Pikachu.
Can I get through some of these comments before you do?
Oh my God!
Yeah, Derek said, "What's up, guys? Hey, Joe." He says, "You are not a cheap ripoff of anything, bud." He says, "A great guy, you tap," and he had a blast on his show, and it was a great show. I got to see that after the fact. That was good stuff. Gary Fisk says, "Hi, Hutch Hoss. Nice to see you, buddy." That's somebody you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, from a long time ago.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Jay Santos, who's on live just about every week, says, "Hi, Fef." He says Nelson Burton Jr. was a fantastic commentator also. And he says the 6'10" for him is double wood. And yeah, I could see that.
Nelson Burton Jr. Yeah. I think if he was part Greek, I think he's probably from the Isle of Thessaly. You know why?
Why is that?
Because that's where they made up the book, the Thesaurus.
Oh
yeah, Bo with the lubriciousness, lubricity, neophyte, tyro. You get some people, like Bo said the one time. He used the word neophyte on television, and that's a beginner, like, and I said to him, Bo, can you imagine some people in this country when you said that? The one turns around and goes like this, "Man says a neophyte. I thought he was a Presbyterian." I mean, what are you doing? And he went, and Bo was great. He'd go like this. He'd always go like this. I got them going. I got to go. Like, say it. He said something one time. He told me that they broke for commercial, and Schenkel actually took his headgear off. He said, "What did you just say?" And Bo went like this. They'll be thinking about that for a long time.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Bo, probably at one time in his life, he was the best action bowler, probably in the world on a pair if you were going to bowl him all night.
Yeah.
He could be, and he was a wrestling champ in Missouri, so he was very fit, and he's still very fit. He's had some problems recently. I think he had a break or a fracture, something he hit in his leg. But Bo was, he saw the game as an athletic endeavor, which it was at that time, and unfortunately now, regardless of how athletic the bowlers are, and they are unbelievably, the nation seems to see it. The sport, the business world seems to see it as a pastime. Yeah. They don't see it as an athletic endeavor.
Do you know Coach Randy Brown?
No.
Okay, so this is him, Brown's Nick Bowling. He says, "Hutch, you didn't make many appearances on the Pro Bowlers Tour, but on one of the few episodes on which you did appear, you left a lasting impression. Your interview with Dave Dillis after winning."
No, Dave Dials.
Dave Dials.
Yes. That was when I won in Peoria. Yeah, I've been I made 12 television shows. I made television shows in 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and 85.
Okay.
And, you know,
And the Peoria one is the one where you beat Coleman.
Yeah, Bill leaves a solid 10 and a 10. Bill throws a great shot. He was a solid 10 and a 10th, and I need to mark in a 10th, and I strike. But that's another story. But Jim Godman's on the show, and I didn't know that Jim had a problem. A lot of guys have problems, substances, and some of them are tobacco, some of them are alcohol. But Jimmy, there were a lot of guys out there years ago that the older guys had bowled on beer teams, you know, and beer and bowling is gigantic.
Sure.
And I got to know Jim, and he was great. I mean, a terrific bowler. I mean, 10 titles, 11 titles, 2 Firestones, won the Masters. The harder they were,
this is it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The harder they were, the better. And I had qualified third. I was the leader the night before going into the last game. I bowled, I don't know, 180 something. Bill bowls 230. Godman bowls 265 or 2 something and leapfrogs me to second.
Okay.
So Tommy Hudson beats Bo the first game. I bowled Tommy. Tommy, another guy, great bowler, doesn't get mentioned, but this guy was phenomenal. And he's in the PBA Hall of Fame. If you're in the PBA Hall of Fame, if you're a bowler, that's as high as you can get. When you're in the professional Hall of Fame of the sport, you are. There's something about Cooperstown, and you know, there's something about the Naismith, there's something about the golf in Florida, you know, there's something about Canton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking anything from the USBC Hall of Fame, but there's a level above that.
Yep.
Guys that put it out to make a living doing it. Okay,
right.
That's my opinion. Opinions are like rear ends, and everybody has one. But you know, but so I bowled Jimmy on the TV, and we're getting ready to bowl. Throwing a practice session. Tita Semez, another guy, just passed away, great bowler, great friend of mine. He's the alternate. And I'm looking, and I went like, I said like this to Tita, I said, "Where's Godman?" Oh, he's loosening up. Where is he?
Yeah.
Was he in the gym? Yeah, I mean, the place had a gym. I'm going, what's he in the gym? He goes, Tita goes, what do you mean he's in the gym? He said he's in a bar with a guy named Jim. What are you talking about? And Jimmy was in settling down his nerves.
Yeah.
And he comes out to bowl, and Jimmy had a little bit of a started with speech impediment, you know, like, and when he would get feeling pretty good, he would have trouble talking. Yeah. And the guys and God bless him, you know, but anyway, we get to the point where I bowled Tommy Hudson. I bested him, and now I'm going to bowl Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And Frank Esposito says, okay, handshake and everything. And I go like this. I said, Jimmy, good luck. I put my hand out, and he really couldn't say much. And I didn't know, what do you do? What do you say?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Frank said, okay, then we step in it. And I bowled 265 against Jim. I had like so many in a row. Then I had a split and I struck out. Yeah. And I was feeling pretty good that day. I had a hell of a look. And this is what he yellowed at. I had a great look. And it was a different time in my life. I threw the ball a little bit better. And on the one commercial break, he went over to Tita and said to him, he said, I don't like that Hutch is showing me up. Because I was kind of running around. And Tita told me, he said that he had said, and Tita said to him, Jimmy, he's not showing you up. He said, he's having a great time.
Yeah.
He says, you know, and he said, I think it was only my second time ever on television. He said, he's having a great time. Because, like, in other words, this is part of the dream. Are you ever going to bowl on television? Are you ever going to bowl on television? And if you do, are you ever going to win on television? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's guys that have made 5 and 6 shows or 10 shows and never won, and they're better known than guys who bowled all the years ago that have 2 and 3 titles and never won a show. Because the early days, there was only so many on television, right? My first tournament I won, there was no show.
Yeah.
And we got done bowling, and I'm not bad top 5. Me, Joe Berardi, Hall of Fame, Earl Anthony, Hall of Fame, Mark Roth, Hall of Fame, and Bill Straub goes on to be one of the best collegiate coaches in history. That was the top 5. That would have been the 5 the next day. But in those days, they didn't have it. I got $6,000 for first. If there had been a TV show and I lost the game, I probably would have got $6,000 for second. That's what the TV show did. It gave you, even though you put the thing on the line after, I led by I think 250 pins or something like that. But the things that gets washed away, and you understand the rules when you bowl. This is what it is. Just like that tournament a couple last year. What they have that 32-man step ladder.
17 for the tournament champions.
Yeah, I mean, so guys were saying like Belmo made the finals, and a couple guys where I read where they were upset because when the tournament was over, if you were 6, you were the alternate. You didn't get the ball, and they gave them, and of all people to give a second shot, him, and he wins it. But I mean, it's just the way it goes.
But, the format coming in.
He didn't make the rules.
Yeah,
he didn't make the rules. You come in your ball, and that's what it is. But if you're in 17th place or whatever you're in, the guy says you got a chance to the show. Shut up. No, because tomorrow, and you got to win 8 games. But I mean, you bowl 8 games in a day. You bowl 10, 20 games a day when you're practicing, 30 games a day. Okay. But yeah, and Jimmy. Unfortunately, the last time I saw him, he walked into the bowling center in Cheektowaga, and he wasn't bowling anymore. And he came in, and he used to room with Jimmy Certain, another absolute priceless guy, Jimmy Certain. I mean, character. Okay. He won the one tournament, and with the doubles with Mike Berlin, and he goes on the senior tour. He's rookie of the year, bowler of the year, and everything. And he's bowling in them. What was the golf stuff that Payne Stewart used to wear? Something.
The knickers. Knickers,
the knicker, whatever that he signed to bowl at him, and you had to know him because he had been so many fights in his life. I mean, to see him dressed like that, it was crazy. But I mean, I saw him in Stanton Lanes here in Wilkes-Barre. I said he had that heavy Alabama accent, and he's originally from Tennessee. And I said to him, Jimmy, how are them pants? He says, he goes, Hutch, they're wonderful to wear. You should try them. Yeah, I should do a lot of things, but but they were paying him to wear them, but another guy, just get to know him, and every once in a while you're at lunch with them or something like that, and it's the names, but but I was gonna about Pete Couture. Yeah, this was a great bowler. Mm-hmm. And he won 5 times or 6 times, and he's in the PBA Hall of Fame. He was a senior tour rookie of the year, senior tour player of the year. And I tell these guys this story. And I was bowling. I met Pete in the regionals, and he had a sponsor. He was living up in Windsor Locks. He was married at the time to a girl named Mary, beautiful girl. And he came on the tour. He's having a very difficult time, and we get to Windsor Locks. And the tournament after that is Garden City. And then there's the Tournament of Champions. So anyway, he's in Windsor Locks, and he has to cash. He has to make the finals because he owes his sponsor money. Okay. Because the sponsor had given him more than the deal so he could bowl. And if he doesn't, he's done. Now he has to try to find another sponsor, which his record says he would because he was great. Yeah. But anyway, he winds up alternate to the finals, and he just has enough money basically to pay the sponsor, and they're even, and he's not going to bowl unless he can get someone to give him like $500 for the next week, because at the time the entry fee is only $1.25, and it's a different time. The motel rooms are $35 or $25 a night instead of $125. Sure. And he's the alternate to the finals, and Pete had them thick glasses, and he had an afro, he had the hair curled, and he was $1.25 if he was lucky. And Wayne Zahn, great bowler, Hall of Fame, rooming with Dick Ricker, the probably the most unknown 20 titleist bowler in history, 20 PBA titles, and everybody remembers him for the camp in Utica. I think it was Utica, no, Ithaca. Anyway,
Wisconsin guy too.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Just bowled with him only a couple times, made up 1 or 2 finals with him, top 24s, and he was just a couple times. But anyway, he's sick. He had made the finals from the first squad. Wayne Zahn comes back and tells Goose that Ricker has to withdraw. Pete gets in the finals. Okay. And he comes wherever he comes 17th or wherever he gets, but he gets enough money to pay his sponsor. And now he has enough money to go to Garden City. Okay. Yeah. But the next week in Garden City, he makes the show. All right. And he gets to the championship match, and he loses, and he gets $8,000 for second. Mm-hmm. And he never needs another dime for the rest of his life on the tour. Wow. And one of the great ironies of the game is, who do you think beat him for the title in Garden City?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, Dick Ricker. Oh. Dick Ricker beat him, but Pete, for that money, he went on to winning $750,000 when money was different.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and he was what a great. If you get Davey Houston on the show, Davey Bull doubles with him.
Okay.
And they won the doubles, senior touring pro doubles.
Right.
And Dave told me, he says that Pete had said to him something like, they're gonna put me in a position where they're gonna have me bull anchor and not you. They're gonna pick the lane and you're seeing where we're bowling. They're gonna make me finish. And you know what he said to David? I hope they do. and Pete threw the strike in attempt to win the match. Davey said to me, his tenacity was unbelievable. Richie Kruber told me one day, I said, I'm going to play golf with Pete Couture tomorrow. I said, he's going to wear you out. Like that. He goes, what do you mean? You're going to think you went 3 rounds with the champ. I said, he's unbelievable. So a couple of days later, I called Richie. I said, how'd the golf game go? I said, I went 9 holes. I was exhausted. He says, Pete's a killer. He said, he complains about every shot. Yeah, that's him. That's Pete. Yeah. That's I mean, but I played tennis with him. I played ping pong with him. I played pool with him. He was fairly good at everything, but I just happened to be a little bit better. And we were rooming together. And he picks me up at my house, and he had the turbo coupe, the Thunderbird.
Oh, okay.
All the years ago, he picks me up on one of them. The sponsor got him one of them, the 4-cylinder turbo. And we're driving across Texas at 120 miles an hour. And the thing, he says to me, for a 4-cylinder, it goes pretty good. And, all you could hear was that whistle. And we were flying. And, I mean, he had the stacks of chocolate chip cookies. He had the ones for me. They were a little burnt. And he had the other ones for him were for the soft bake. So when he used to get out to gas up, I used to switch some of the cookies around right there because I like the soft bake too. When he got down by the bottom, all the ones were dark. And he says to me, geez, Mary should have. Then he looks at me and goes, you've been switching the cookies. I said, who, me? I roomed with him. He was. Yeah. And Tommy Baker won the doubles with Tom.
Yeah.
The room with Tom. I tell you what, I was always jealous of the physical game that Tom has. And he still has it. Sure. He no matter how many games he bowls, he always looks like he's loosening up. It's a walk in the park. Yeah. Nice and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. And he strike. You could put a time clock by the pair. Mm-hmm. Tom, you're up. Wait a minute. Click, and he would start striking. Right. And the gentleman that sponsored him in Buffalo was a wonderful guy too, Freddie Saya. His father-in-law, this guy. They used to call him Pop. He was a scratch golfer one time. And he says to me one time up in Buffalo, he says, Hutch, I love to watch Tommy bowl. I said, why? I knew why, but why? He said, because he always looks like he's warming up. He said he always looks like he's so, and he was. Tommy never, and you remember Tommy bowl, and he couldn't get his hand in the ball. He was always fidgeting. If he ever got his hand in the ball, I think he'd have won 50 times, but he only won 28 times. But he was always, he'd look at me and goes, it's got to be like that, but it's like this. I got it. But but I mean, I roomed with Tommy 4 or 5 years, and then I went back on got operated on. I came back up. That's when I met Charlie.
Okay.
And what are the chances of me meeting Charlie? I'm in Scranton. He's in St. Paul.
Right.
And I'm crossing behind him in Milwaukee. And at that time, you couldn't ask any information because you could forfeit your card. It was the dumbest thing. Which now they didn't allow it in coaching. Now the ball reps are in the back. You go to a pair. The guy gives you a ball. Throw this in here and make a 5 and 2 left. Okay, all right. That's okay. Because tennis they didn't allow any coaching either. Mm-hmm. You get the signals. The guys get the hand signals because anyway, the Iranian guy or the coach. Ivan Tiriak. So he used to have hand signals to the guys, and the guys used to catch him and used to throw him out of the stadium. Now, right? But anyway, I said to Charlie, I just, the one game I said to him, how's this pair compared to the last pair? That was how the conversation started. Mm-hmm. And we turned into best friends. I mean, and we got rooming together with basically the two same senses of humor, which is kind of bizarre because the only difference was, I think, he thought Letterman was funny and I didn't. That's about the only time. He would laugh at Letterman like a fool, and I'd be looking at him, what are you laughing at? But we love slapstick. We love potty humor. We love pie fight. All the craziest things. When something happened over there, we could always just embellish it to where it was fantastic. And the guys wanted to hear Don Johnson. God bless Don Johnson. One of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
he would walk in the paddock sometimes with me and Charlie would be there. And I asked the guy to go over, he goes, "Where'd you guys put your bowling balls?" Over there. And he'd walk over and put it, because we'd come in and always thought we used to get him laughing like a fool. There's a guy, 26 titles and passed without a whimper. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Earl, they put him on ESPN and he deserved to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Coco deserved to be on there too.
Sure.
I mean, he was, Barry Asher's one of the great assessors.
Before you get to Barry, can I get back to Charlie a little bit, because
he's butting in again. He's a pain.
Well, he wanted to.
You talk to him. I'll go get some preparation, H.
No, he wanted to be on live, but he said he had to bowl tonight. I said, well, you can watch it on replay, or you can get a sub.
Yeah, they got that mixed thing. No, they got that mixed handicap doubles notes app. Yeah,
they need what was it, veteran leadership or something like that. So I asked him about you, and
right,
he said, yeah, you guys text and send stupid videos to each other all the time. So you're in contact a lot. But he said, but there's one story that you talk about that he doesn't remember. He said something to do with an autograph. That may be a good one. Do you remember what he's talking about?
Of course I do. Yeah, the autograph. Well, I don't know if he wants me to tell that.
Well, he brought it up.
No, okay, all right, Charlie. We're bowling in Denver.
Yeah,
and we're bowling at the place that had the pool and everything. I can't remember what the name of the building was now. Tommy won there. That's where Tommy and Pete had the 300 tie.
Oh,
and Charlie made the show there the 1 year. And Charlie, please understand what I'm saying. He's a good-looking guy. He's 6'6". He's kind of, and we're practicing in the same pair. And I look in the back, and there's this really, hot-looking girl looking back there, and she's looking, and she's waving, and I go like this. I point to me, and she goes, "Yeah, come here." So I go up, and she says to me, just like Rodney Dangerfield, no respect. She says to me, "Do you know Charlie real good?" I went, "Yeah, I know him real good." And she says, "Can you ask him to come back? I would like to talk to him." Now, this is a long time ago. He wasn't married. Okay, he wasn't married. Just so you understand.
Is this celebrity in Denver? Larry
That's
wants
it.
to know?
That's it. Celebrity Lanes. That's
okay.
It. So I go down and he says, "What's up?" I said, "You see the?" And he looks. He goes, "Yeah, she wants to talk to you." He comes walking back down. I said, "What? She want her autograph?" "No," he said. "She gave me hers, but it's her phone number." And this thing ensued with her, which now they would call stalking.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And we're in Denver. She appears in San Francisco.
Oh.
We're in LA. She's in LA. We're in Texas. She's in Texas.
Oh, wow.
And he had it. He finally shook her, but yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And that's the only one I can remember that I said to her, maybe she wants your autograph. Yeah, I guess it, all
Maybe a
all
little
depends.
bit more.
Well, all depends what kind of pen you're writing with, but I mean, it's just, but I mean, it's just, but Chuckles, my boy, he was, we're in the hotel in Anaheim across the street from the bowl, and we're making up an NBA team, of bowlers, of PBA bowlers, and we're laughing like fools. It's 3 a.m. And all of a sudden, somebody starts pounding on the wall in the room next to us. Really. And the guy goes, "Charlie Tab, I know you're in there. I got to bowl the rabbit squat tomorrow. I'm telling Harry Golden, you kept me awake." Like, and Charlie, and I don't know who it was. Charlie might be able to tell you who. I don't know. But he started laughing. We walk in the next day, the guy had a bad day, and he's blaming Charlie. You this guy, that guy, you're like, the guys we picked, a lot of them are gone, but we picked them for reasons. Who was heavy and who was thin and who was a heavy smoker. We had the guys running down the court, lighting cigarettes, dribbling with the other hand, and everything. And we had one guy that was a heavy guy. His shorts had cuffs, on the bottom. Oh, I mean, it was crazy. We had the Olympic team who was the broad jumper, who was the pole vault, and a guy is straightening out the uneven parallel bars and everything. This was long before it was on television. Guys saying that, but I mean, we had that, but we had the guy going around the high bar, and it was the three joker dismount, As he went around, you'd hear him, Joker. That's all he said, Joker. And then the third one, he'd let go. And then we went like splat. And the guys come on, got him up with the ice scraper. And with the wheelbarrow. That was just stupid stuff.
Do you remember a week at the U.S. Open when Billy Young and Mike Edwards traveled with you guys because the transmission went out on Billy's car?
We remember them buying us breakfast and lunch a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to play the numbers game.
Okay.
And my man Eddie Edwards and Ned Young, Billy Young. I just got friends with Billy on Facebook. Eddie, I don't know. But anyway, we used to play the numbers game with them, and I got indoctrinated in that game with Jowdy. Said that him and John Jowdy, another guy, Columbia rep on the tour, a great guy, cigar this long, the cowboy hat, the boots and everything. He's from San Antonio. Great guy. Bobby Ridings, the other guy from Columbia. Bernie Weiss, the other guy from Columbia. The reps were great. But, yeah, they got indoctrinated to go to a restaurant in Kansas City. If George Pappas is watching, he'll know Jasper's, I think it was called. Real high-class restaurant. There'd be 4 or 5 of them, and they used to play the numbers game for the check. And the check at the time was maybe $125. That's when, fillets were $35, and then they weren't $125, right? But they used to number from 1 to 1,000. Somebody was designated to write the number, and the other 4 guys you have to pick between 1 and 1,000. So you come up and you say 500, let's say, and if I got the number, I would, unless you picked it, but I would go like this. It's higher than that, so that eliminates from 499 down. And you would go, and the guy who picked the number had to buy. Had to buy the thing. And he says, I don't know how many times did it get down there, it'd be like 4 numbers left. It'd be sounding crazy. It's between 125 and 129 that you're picking. The guy would be like, Jesus. We start playing that, and me and Charlie, I don't want to say anything, but we kind of made sure.
It wasn't going to be one of you.
We got. I mean, breakfast. I mean, occasionally they would actually pick the number by accident. I mean, but it was absolutely hysterical. We'd go in and, I mean, Mike Edwards, the one time Billy Young got stuck and Mike had dessert for breakfast. He wanted to get the check up. Yeah. He said, "You got anything for dessert? Yeah, give me a piece of pie too." But those guys, and Del Ballard traveled with us, and Del's one of the best ever, and he traveled with us, and of course, like I said, Billy. Then we had a guy with us, probably the best group. I mean, when I was with Tommy, that was just him and I. But when I got with Charlie, it was me and Charlie, Larry Matthews. You don't know who that is. Nope. John Cacci, you don't know who that is.
He brought that up. There you go.
John Cacci, and Tommy and Bakes was still with us, right? But when we would go to eat, you could put a tent up around us and charge admission. It was crazy. Cacci was fantastic. Larry Matthews, Larry had polio and something else. He was really disabled, and he won a regional. He made probably half a dozen top 24s in the PBA. He had 300, 800. And I got to be honest with you. I think if everybody had the affliction he had, he might have been the best bowler in the world because he couldn't throw the ball. He had to wedge his fingers in Fef so hard that he couldn't get, the only way he could get off was throw it because he had no grip. He had gloves. I mean, it was amazing. And his teeth were like like this. He made Jaws look like he did he looked like he needed 2 sets of braces, right? and he kind of talked a little bit out of kilter, God bless him, because of what he had. But we befriended him because a lot of the guys didn't like him, and we befriended him. And he'd tell a joke, and we'd wait till the punchline, and then me and Cacci and Charlie used to take turns. He goes, you know what happens now? He'd go like that, and one of us would bump on Cacci and give him the punchline. He goes, you guys are no effing good. He'd be going out like crazy. But I mean, he passed a couple years ago. Charlie called me, and then not long, his stepson had passed. His stepson was in a wheelchair. Yeah. It was his wife's child, Butch, and he was really seriously handicapped, but he passed, and Charlie passed first, or excuse me, not Charlie, God bless him. Larry passed first. Okay. And they think that Butchie died broken heart. They said because I called his mom and she said Butchie didn't last much longer. He loved Larry, and then Larry was gone, but Larry got to be in his 60s, I believe, and he was a great storyteller. He drove a AA Fuelie, he drove NASCAR, he was world ranked in karate. He bowled Hardwick up. I'm not saying this being a wise guy to Larry, but this is if you knew him. If the guys out there are listening, like Kenny Fernandez and the guy Kenny for one, if he's listening to this, he'll go like, that's Larry. And he had it. Whatever you said, he had to one up you, right?
Yeah.
So he said he bowled Hardwick a match in San Mateo, where Hardwick was from California.
Okay.
And Hardwick shot eight something at him for 3 games, and Larry shot 780. Oh. At the end of the match, Hardwick and boy, Billy's one of the greatest bowlers ever lived. I mean, and you get to know him, and I might bouncing around here, but I would call him occasionally, and he'd come to the phone and we talk for 20 minutes and go, and the next thing you know, he has cancer and he's gone. But he, it was great. Anyway, Hardwick said to him, "Son, great match. You ready?" He says, "You not only throw the best ball I've ever seen, you throw the best ball I've ever heard of." and of course, so Charlie has the big eyes with the glasses. Yeah. When he tells us that, I'm over here, and Charlie just go like, he look over at me, and Larry's like, "You two guys don't believe me." But it was just the story. The story of the ride with him and Kachi to Peoria is one of the greatest ever. Now, Charlie can tell you because me and Bakes had already left. Me and Tommy left. And Larry had to be in Peoria before 5 o'clock because that's when the pro shop was going to close. And he had to have the guy drill the bowling balls. And I guess they got there at 5:01. Larry disowns Charlie and Kachi. And by the end of the night, he's back in the fold.
Oh, sure.
But for a split second, he had found a new best friend. So Charlie says to him, "We're going over lanes. You want to go?" And Larry said, "I don't want to go. You guys, blah, 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 blah. F you." He's going all this stuff. We're over the lanes. And all of a sudden, here comes Larry walking in the lanes. So Charlie says to him, "How'd you get here?" What do you think he says? You guys are my friends. I got a ride from my new best friend, Mark Roth." So we know Mark good. And I said to Mark, "You gave Larry a ride over? Give him a ride over." He jumped on the hood of the car. He said, "I almost killed him." Right? So he wants to come over the lanes. He comes over the lanes. Now, Charlie, this big, and Larry's here. Yeah. And Charlie be smoking and be looking at him. A lot of times he'd be flicking the ash and just miss him. And Larry would be like, "Why is going on?" He said, "Don't forget I'm a 12th degree in black belt karate." Or whatever. And so anyway, he at the end of the night, Larry, we turn around, there's Larry right by us. And Charlie goes, "What do you want?" He looks down just like that. "And what do you want?" He goes, "We're going to get a ride back to the hotel." And Charlie has that cigarette. He goes like this. "So what happened to your best friend, Mark Roth?" He goes, "F him, he left me." Mark said, because Mark told me, he said, "I'm leaving. Don't tell him I'm leaving." Mark was a funny guy. Mark, I room with Mark. Mark was great. And so Larry, he hated him, and then he's back in the fold in a couple hours. Oh God. Oh.
Do you remember a time, and you've said Bakes a couple times, and Baker, and we've got Tom Baker, but we've also got Mark Baker.
I room with both of them.
Yeah. He mentioned that you are banned from the sand from Huntington Beach for life. What's that all about?
If it isn't, at the one time, I had Mark as one of in the top 10 laziest people in the world. But now he made a liar out of me. He is first, let me tell you this, and it's a little bit of a biased opinion. I think Mark's the best coach. I think Mark's the best coach of the game in the world. Yeah. I was part of Camp Bakes for 30 camps, 33 camps. And I give lessons to about 7 or 8 people here. I give 7 or 8 lessons a week. Okay. And a lot of the stuff that I use is from there. Yeah. With my little twist on it, or his twist on my opinion. But he was a beach bum, and everything, right? He used to take this folding chair down, and he'd have an 8-pack of Heineken, and he'd have a book. I mean, a book like War and Peace. It's like, this is one, it's this thick, right? So we get down there one day, and I got the. You ever remember Rocky III when he's running on the beach with the white socks with the stripes on the top that match the shirts?
Yeah.
And I have never been sockless. I've always got socks on. So my feet would make a person who was an albino look like they're dark. Okay. So the one year at the camp, Mark had me pull my sock down. And funny, he had it rigged up because everybody in the camp went like this. No, they're all covering their eyes. And I went like this, and I'm going like this. Enough's enough. And I pulled it up because they are. When I show you, I'm Caucasian. I've been a smart guy. What's your? I'm Caucasian. But anyway, we go down to the beach. Mm-hmm. Sand is on fire.
Sure. It's
burning. Yep. He wants me to take my socks off. You got to be out of your mind, right? So we put these 2 towels out. Okay. And I of course I took, stupid. I took my shoes off. I have my socks on the beach. I mean, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I don't go to a pool. I don't even, if a fire hydrant's leaking, I don't go buy it. Yep. Right? You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Water's for taking a shower and boiling macaroni. I don't want to hear anything else about it. Right? Nobody, if God wanted me there, he gave me gills, right? So we're down there, and Mark's got this. He's sitting there with the sunglasses. I think he had Varnays and the hat because Varnays were the red thing. Yeah. He's sitting there and he's the book, and I'm pacing. I like a tiger in a cage. And these people are walking by, and I'm looking at him. Hey, you guys you guys work? When you guys work, you're all vagrants, you're all bums. I'm yelling at them. I don't know how I didn't get in a fight, but they're walking by me, and here I'm, this guy in a matching outfit or something, right? And so I looked at Mark. I said, it seems like we've been there a day already. We were probably there about a half hour. I said, when do we leave? When do we get out of hell here and like make it to purgatory? And he goes like, you see where the sun is now? And I said, yeah. And he goes just like this. When it gets over there. And I looked at him, I said, you got to be out of your effing mind. I said, if you think I said, because I'm going to wear these towels off before, and the sand's hot, and the people are going by, and I'm saying, look at nobody works. It's a work. No wonder California's in the state it's in. I said, everybody's actors, everybody's impersonators. These guys are and he's like, finally he had enough. He said, let's get out of here. Right? Yeah. But I mean, so that was my excursion to the beach with Mark. Mark, I'll tell you what. At the camp, he downplays his ability as a bowler. He always says, he goes, I made a DVD and I made a book, and he's not. And Mark, for about 4 years, and that's about 4 years, but he was one of the top 5 guys, 7 guys in the world. He was terrific. He was terrific, and then he had the back surgery, and the party was just about over. I mean, I had 5 surgeries to play this game, and with every surgery, it got a little bit. The pain went away, but a little bit of the ability that I had before the affliction never came back. Yeah. My first surgery was on my hand. Okay. And it's hard to think, I never threw the ball as good as I did before. Yeah. And I still threw it. I won 4 times after, made a dozen shows, but I would see some, I remembered how the ball used to roll. Now it don't roll. Then my shoulder, then 2 on my elbow, and all here. And this is because of the screwy way I threw it. I mean, I wasn't.
Everybody knows you for the backswing. But what I noticed when when watching old videos of you is that you put your thumb in the ball before the fingers.
No, so does Tommy Jones.
Does he? Okay.
A lot of guys. Well, I used to put my thumb in here like Tommy.
Yep.
And I used to go all the way back like this and put in and I mean, when I first started to bowl down Greenridge Lanes, I was a little guy, and some thumbs were either too big or too small. So I found out blow on the thumb, put my thumb in and go around like this, and I could hold on to it. So I came on tour and I did that. And I got a compliment one time, bowling with Mike Durbin, and he watched that I was putting my thumb in first. And Mike said to me, he called Bill Taylor. And he said, we got a new guy out here who puts his thumb in first, because most of the guys were fingers in first. You could see them. And Taylor had a very good answer, and it was the truth. He says the finger that goes in first, the fingers go in first, the impetus is on the fingers. Thumb goes in first, the impetus is on the thumb. because I used to throw the ball, pretty good, and I needed a way to get it down the lane because I used to turn it pretty good.
Yeah.
And if I put my fingers in first, if my own ball, if I put my fingers in first and my thumb in, it wasn't my ball. When the guy was drilling the ball for me, I would put my thumb in and turn it over and get it. And no one ever said nothing. I mean, but then after a while, I got to the point where I put my fingers in first. Marshall puts all three in at once, and it looks like his thumb's almost in first, but then he wiggles and he readjusts. Davey Houston.
That's what Larry said.
Davey puts his thumb in first and stuff like that. And it was just something, a little idiosyncrasy, and of course now the guys bowl with no thumbs, so I mean, and that's the big thing now, and it's not going to change. I got a good question for you.
Okay.
I don't know if any of the guys can answer this.
I don't know who's interviewing who here, but go ahead.
Well, I know Charlie. I know Charlie can probably answer this question if he's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go game changers.
Okay.
Game changers. Okay, Belmo, right? Game changer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know who the first game changer was when the game went from 2 fingers to 3. Years ago, all the guys were one finger in the thumb. You know a guy named Ed Lebansky?
Yeah.
Okay. His career, he was still 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
The guy bought back-to-back 300s on television. He was great, one of the best ever. Okay. So now whoever put the ring finger in changed the game to the point that became the way to throw the ball.
Sure.
The next guy to change the game was a guy named Connie Schwegler out of Milwaukee. Ever hear that name?
Yeah, of course. Madison, I think.
Yeah. You know what he did?
What did he do?
He's the first guy to have a fingertip.
Okay.
He was the first guy to put the fingers in, and the guys, the top bowlers, he was the bowler of the year. He was the All-Star, whenever, said to him, it won't work. You'll never hold on to it. You'll lose it. Next guy's Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Because Carter and Weber, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, didn't change the game because they threw it straight. They changed the style of bowling because they didn't go with the NBL, the National Bowling League. They went with Eddie Elias and the PBA.
Sure.
And and a lot of guys, even Asher told me this, that the 2 guys who were 1 and 2 or tied for number 1, whatever you want to say, don't declare for the draft. They're not in the draft. They're not, and the league doesn't last a year. For whatever reason, that had to be somewhat of a thing. They go, and Elias had told them, I'm going to give you a new way to bowl. You're going to bowl for more money than you ever bowl for in your life if you stay with me, because he had ABC in his pocket. Yeah. Okay. The next guy after that is Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Roth was the hook isn't new, rev rate isn't new, but Mark had a violence of when he threw the ball of this, and then that jam that thumb in and them quick little pumps and 6-7 steps. You could hear the feet going, and he was always cutting it loose. And Mark didn't drag his trail leg; he kicked it to the side.
Yeah. So
when you bowled in Kansas City with the overlane ball returns, you had to wait for him to be done because he would bail the ball return every time, and it was loud. You would have. After a while, you got used to it. This was when he was throwing a strike, let alone the 10-pin.
Yeah.
Okay, so now after Roth, and I guess you say Belmo, right?
I wouldn't.
Okay, who do you say?
Well, I grew up in the early mid 90s. I mean, I'm, in high school and I'm a teenager, and I'll tell you what, I never saw anybody throw the ball quite like Mike Miller.
Mike Miller? That's the guy. But here's the crazy thing.
I didn't just guess that, by the way. I've seen you say that.
Now, here's the crazy thing. It's Charlie Tapp, and Charlie can tell you the story better than me. Yeah. Charlie and Mike bowled the doubles in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy and I bowled. Tommy and I made the finals. They missed the check by 40 pins. Missed the finals by 80. We're sitting in a restaurant. Mike was a terrific bowler, but he didn't throw that good of a strike ball. But he filled frames, and at that table that day,
Sis was pretty good too.
Oh, Dana's in every Hall of Fame. Dana's great. But Mike says at the table, he says, Charlie, I'm going home and I'm not coming back till I can strike. He said, because we can't strike. Yeah. And he says to Charlie, and I'll never forget this. He said to Charlie, if you and I carried 1 flat 10, a block, not a game, a block. He said, that's 21 times 2 is 42 times 3 is 126 pins. We'd make the finals. I'm not asking to carry 1 flat 10 a game. won a block. He says, and he went home. So Charlie marries Marlis, and Marlis was a professional bowler. They go down to New Mexico to bowl, and they walk in, and Mike is practicing. Like Charlie says, I see him down on 1 and 2. I walk in, I'm waving to him, and they're finding out where the paddock is and everything. And Mike's waving to him, come on down, come on down. So Charlie says, I start walking down, and he goes, when he gets there, he goes, I found the answer. So Mike is throwing a ball. So Mike was so good at that he didn't put it on his forearm. And he didn't look like he was struggling. His arm swing was still straight, and his form was terrific. He was terrific. So when the ball comes back, and this is long before, I think there was urethane out, but that's about it. There was no risk. And Charlie he said, Hutch, I watched the rev rate. I watched the ball turn. I start looking to see how the ball's drilled. Like, where's he says, and when I turn it around, I look and there's no thumb hole. And Mike said, that's the secret. He said, no more drag. No drag. It's all this, right? So he comes on tour. He wins the PBA National Championship, wins 2 titles, goes 300 on television, makes half a dozen, 8 shows, whatever. And I got to tell you what, and honestly, after he made the first show, I didn't go to one PBA tournament, and I know Charlie did the same thing after that. There wasn't somebody there bowling without a thumb in the ball. And this was something that never, ever happened before.
Yeah.
Never. And all of a sudden, he's on him. Of course, Bo picks it up, and he's supposed to pick it up because it's phenomenal. Yeah. And then that led to this Doherty. What's his Tom? He still bowls one hand, no thumb. You know, and of course, Butteroff is a little half thumb. Smallwood's a half thumb. Yep. I remember Tommy from bowling in the team challenges with him and stuff like that. But I mean, Mike, and then he but this 2-hand thing, and I'm going to tell you what, I don't know how old Belmo is. How old is Belmo? 38, 39?
Yeah, close to 40, but I don't know,
let's say he's 40 years old, and he's been in the country, 12, 13 years? 15 years?
Sounds about right.
Okay, right. So until then, did you ever see anybody bowl 2 hands?
No, I did not.
I got news for you. There was a kid here in Scranton. He's bowled 2 hands his whole life, and he's already in his 30s.
Is that Chuck Landy?
No. This is a guy you never heard of. This is a friend of mine's son, and he's terrific. Okay. But he's on the verge, maybe, hopefully, being a professional fisherman. That's what he does. Okay. His name is Sean Kaharski. And he's a wonderful kid. And years ago, he was bowled 2 hands. And even though he was half thumb, he never let the second hand never came off the ball, and his swing was short like here. And his father actually brought him to me one day, and he said, do you think you can get him out of that to bowl conventional? And this is long. He's the only guy ever I saw do it at the time. and God bless him, he didn't have any kind of problems that he had to do that. Yeah. And I said, no. I watched him bowl, and he bowled, and now he's got 4,300 games, 3,500 series when he bowls. Wow. So his father's telling me the story to one night. He goes up on Thursday night to bowl instead of to watch him bowl. He used to go up to watch him bowl the league, and he go home. Yeah. Practice balls, he says to his dad, hey, Dad, you might want to stick around tonight. It looks pretty good. I said, right? How about 868? Oh. I remember throwing a ball years ago and looked pretty good in ball 668.
Right.
868. And I mean, this is resin now. I mean, once the resin came in, it got to, and he doesn't know anything about between the first and second arrow. Yeah. He's 4th arrow out to the tracer board. That's what he is. And when he bowls, he comes back. He bowled the tournament not long ago. He came in 4th. He hadn't bowled in the longest time. And he's a great kid. He's wonderful. And he's very knowledgeable. He likes to help people. He'd probably be a very good coach of the game. But this was a guy that never saw anybody bowl 2 hands. And I saw him, and it was such an anomaly. I mean, look at this guy. And there was a guy in Stan Lanes in Wilkes-Barre, a guy named Sikowski. And the ball would have went down when he bowled with his thumb in the ball, and actually looked like a bad test pattern on the television. And so one of the guys says to me, he said, Hutch, remember, BJ? Said, yeah. He said, you got to come down and see him now. He's bowling with 2 hands. What are you talking about? And I got on and watch him. What do you think his average went to? From 170, it went to 225.
Oh.
And now all of a sudden he's throwing a ball 18, 19 miles an hour in it, but it's hooking. Yeah. And this was probably just at the outset of resin.
Oh my God.
I mean, hey, but Jeff, I'm bowling 63 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen it, and you never know when you're going to see something you never saw before. And I just saw something the other night that I never saw before.
Okay.
63 years. Like some of the guys that are young. Did you ever see this? 10 times, whatever. There was a guy bowling next to me. He left a 2, 5, 7, 8. He's an older guy, maybe my age, and he hooks the ball a little bit, but he's my ball speed, right? There had been a ton of open play that day with house balls and plastic balls down the middle, so the oil's really pushed down the back.
Yeah.
He's throwing a pretty strong resin ball. He throws the ball at the spare, and it gets hung up in the oil in the middle because all the house bowlers are throwing the ball down the middle, right?
Yeah.
And it looks, and I just happen to be looking. Nothing's off spot. And the ball, you could see it hit the oil and just like really straight out. He misses the 2-pin coming in by a sheet of paper and takes the 5-pin straight back off the 8.
Oh, so and he's right-handed.
Yes, he winds up 7 out, and I looked at what.
And it really backed up. Yeah.
How did that?
Wow.
How did that happen? Because he threw it from over here. He didn't throw it from inside, over the left side.
Yeah.
And I said, and once again, I said to myself, well, there's something I never saw before.
Yeah.
17. You know what aggravates me too a lot of times? As great a bowler as Mark Roth.
Yeah.
Why do they have to show that highlight of him making that 7-10?
7-10. Yeah.
With all the shots that Mark threw, great, and great situations where he had to throw it. No one knows they make the 7-10 when they leave it. Now, I understand it's the first time ever. I understand that. Sure. And when they show it, they get him a standing ovation. Mm-hmm. I mean, he deserves standing ovations for other things. The tournament that he won in Keystone Lanes in California against Bobby Fleegman, no show. Has to be, and you can ask when ask Mark Baker. Me and Tommy were there. Has to be, if it isn't the greatest finish ever, it's tied. Yeah. It's tied for the greatest finish ever. To need 3 strikes in the 10th frame to win the tournament on a lane you didn't throw a strike on, and you need the 3 strikes to win by a pin, to win the tournament by a pin. But I mean, you watch these things, and the guy says to me one day, "Can you think of the greatest game you ever seen bowled?" And I said, "Well, I bowled some pretty good games myself, but the greatest game I ever saw bowled was by Marshall Holman, and he bowled it against me at Highland Bowl in Texas. It was Jerry Ray's place. Mm-hmm. The lanes were unbelievably tight that week, and angles were just out. And there was a big difference between urethane and plastic. But I think I was throwing a yellow dot, and I get the ball to change direction. I'm almost on anything. But Marshall, wow. It was a tournament that he led by about 550. And Sutar beat him on the show. But Charlie made the show there. Okay. And Tommy made the finals, Bakes. And Freddie was there. And Freddie was over talking to me. So I throw my first frame. No, excuse me. Marshall throws his first frame. I'm not paying attention. I'm getting ready. No, I know where I'm going to throw. I get a strike. I get the first 4 strikes in a row. And I know how tight the lanes are.
Yeah.
And I happened to look up when Marshall was throwing his. Let's see, I started. He goes, no, Marshall started. So he's second, third. He's throwing his 4th frame. And because I had already had 4 in a row, so he's coming up in his 5th. And I see where he's standing. He's against the ball return. Hmm. He's got to be throwing at the 10th pin because I know where I'd be. He's throwing at a rack. He's throwing at a rack. And he flips this angle, this black angle out there, and I saw it where it was. And I realized that if I shot the 10 pin from there, I couldn't make it to go in the gutter. And it came back and destroyed the rack. And I'll never forget this. I turned around to Freddie Saya, and I looks at me. I said to him, "Freddie, just like this, I'm hunting polar bear with a slingshot." Mm-hmm. He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Did you see that?" So the 5th frame, I come up, missed by a little bit to the right. Got to be a wall shot, right? You think? How about the bucket with the 7 pin? Just make the spare. This is you remember this stuff is crazy. Yeah. Make the spare both 224 clean. Don't get another double the rest of the way. Marshall's got the first 9. Comes up in the 10th frame, flush. Solid 10 second. Last shot in the 10, 299. I come running out on the approach after. Looking, I'm going to congratulate him.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he's like, "What's going on?" And I grab his hand, I shake his hand. I said to Marshall, "That's the greatest game I've ever seen bowled in my life." I said, "You know why?" because I'm on the pair with you. Because if I was on this pair and I'm watching you hook the ball, I'd say he's not on the pair I'm on.
Right.
I mean, I'm on the pair he's on, and I mean it's a little different, you know, with the cert, and Marshall was, wow.
Yeah.
It's the greatest. Once again, another opinion of mine, greatest physical game in the history of the game. Get in your finishing position at the very start and just run up.
Right.
He got down. Dell copied him. Dell told us he loved watching Marshall ball, and he got down. So Marshall gets down low and just rocks it a couple times and runs at that level, and never. Everybody else starts up here, and you gradually go down. So gradual that you can't see it. You know, if you see anybody's head bob, and they're in trouble. It doesn't look like they're moving. Marshall
Same
down,
level.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Jay wants to know if you have ever crossed paths with Ernie Schlegel.
Oh God Almighty! He stayed at my house. I stayed at his house. Ernest, as Barry calls him, Ernestine. Ernie is he was the greatest. I think, I don't know about action bowler, but he was the best hustler of the game of bowling, because he was he had no trouble losing. He a great hustler. In pool or any game, you're going to hustle. You got to be willing to lose, because that's how you bring the guys on. Mm-hmm. If you can't go and never lose, you know. So he told me the story about going across New York State on 17. I think it's 17, yeah, with Lemongello many years ago. Mike is still alive. Lemongello is right. He said he'd be bowling doubles. They're going everywhere bowling on the double. Well, Mike never wanted to lose Lemongello. He if you had 185 and he could strike out for 290, he wouldn't open. He'd throw a 290 game.
Yeah.
So Ernie was telling me, said, Mike, we got to lose once in a while. And Mike goes, no. So anyway, they get to this town, Rome, New York. They go to Rome, New York, and Ernie says, I'm going to bowl this guy. And they brought the best bowler in from Rome, New York, whatever the guy is. And Ernie lets the guy win. He sets him up. He lets him win. The guy was bowling 200, 190. Ernie's bowling 180, 170. Ernie'd win a game now and then, right? But the guy beat him. And so here's these two stars that came all the way from New York City, and we beat him. So Ernie says, we keep going on 17. We're all the way on the Buffalo, Erie, everything. You know, we come back, and we stop in Rome on the way back. Mm-hmm. And Ernie says, we're gonna go to this place. And at the time, I think it was Mohawk Lanes. It was owned by Mo Pinnell. Now I can't remember, but it's owned by Craig Vogel now, the place. Okay. And they go in as soon as they see Ernie. And Ernie's got all this money because they had won here and there. They had the money. They call the guy to come in again, and everybody's happy. You know, we got him.
Yeah.
Ernie cleaned the bowling alley out. He cleaned it out because now it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Now he kept beating him by a couple, and then lose a game occasionally, and then they think like they double up the bet, triple up the bet. I mean, you got to look. You know, I was a pretty good pool shooter one time, but I was never, you know, like number one pool shooter in the world was from Scranton, Pennsylvania, for a while, named Jimmy Rempe. Oh. He was number one in the world, and you know, when he first went out to play pool, he wasn't a pro, and he used to go around and make games and get games, and that's what they do. They're called. That's where I think the thing hustler came from. Of course, years ago was that Count Gengler in bowling, but he, you know, you got to be you give a guy in pool, you give a guy a game that sounds like you can't beat him, that you have to play over and above you. But if he accepts that game, you got him because you know he can't beat you.
Yep.
So bowling, Ernie said, Hutch, you got to know when to throw a Brooklyn hit. You got to know when to miss the head pin. You got to know when to make you looks like you stick. He said all the things come back complaining about this, and I don't believe I threw it. He said because they're listening and watching. Okay. He said they're not having any problems. But what they don't understand is I can throw the ball where I have to and how I have to when I want to. Yeah. He said, and that's Ernie. But Ernie is he's absolutely. Did you have him on here yet?
I have.
Oh, he is. Ernie is just, and he's brilliant. He's fantastic. Yeah. He's brilliant. I mean, his spare shooting system is mathematical. It's you know, it's a configuration of numbers with the boards and the approach and someone looks, he goes, because the way Ernie starts talking, he goes, he's a nut. You're not. I tell you what,
there's a method to the madness.
Yeah, I tell you what, I when Ernie was at his best, I would put him up against Walter would be another guy. Low ball. I never really bowl low ball.
He said he always wanted to bowl low ball against Walter.
Yeah, the wall because Walter 7-pin dead eye, but if you talk to Mark Baker, when Walter shot the 10-pin, he got 3, and he got 3 every time because Mark said Walter said I'm not interested in picking the 10-pin off by itself. I'm interested in making the 6-10, which I should have been there to find out how he did it. But and he says he kept getting 3. So Mark said I watched Walter hit the 7-pin like 10 times in a row, and he got 3 10 times in a row. Oh, wow. So that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
But
Coach Randy wants to know.
Randy Peterson?
Nope, this is Randy Brown. He is his brainchild is called Prodigy Bowlers Tour. It's fantastic on YouTube. If you ever
PBT, it's still
yeah. He says, why do you think nobody tried two-handed before Belmo came along and popularized it?
Well, I when I was a kid bowling, it would be futile to throw a rubber ball with 2 hands at 20 miles an hour because the ball wouldn't turn over. Yeah. It probably had a chance with urethane, but nobody did. But you didn't. The friction on wood, and you emulate the best in the game.
Right. What's working?
When I was a kid bowling, the best was Carter and Weber. They put their thumbs in the ball and they threw it straight. I said Carter and Weber didn't change the game. They changed the format of it from team to singles, but they threw it straight as a string. I mean, Carter hooked the ball a bit. Weber told me this story, and I got to know him great. Weber told me when he went to St. Louis and he gets on the Budweiser team, he used to hook the ball. Now, Weber, from what I understand, guys that saw him hook the ball said he'd lay down about 15, 16, go about 12, 13 at the arrows, and he would go out right of the second arrow and break it back with a rubber ball. That's a big-time hook. Right. If your ball's on 8 or 9 and the pocket's on 17 and a half, you got 10 inches to bring it back to the pocket. And this was an Amflite, a 3-dot. Yeah. So he gets with Budweiser, and he says, and he would bowl some when they went around city to city with the exhibitions. This is his words. I sat in a restaurant with him one time in Peoria for hours, and I just picked his brain, and he loved. You think I love to talk? He loves to talk. Weber, God bless him. I miss him. I think about him all the time. And he said, so Bluth, Hennessy, Carter got together. They used to have mandatory practice sessions, and they got him to go like this. He says, and then he said, I had trouble, like I was embarrassed when I left the 5-pin. But his shot was the wall shot with a 5-4, 5-7, the last 3 down. Yeah. And one of the guys, I don't know if it was Hennessy or something, said to him, he said, Dick, you need a mark to win the match. What do you want to make, the 5-pin or the 4-9? And Weber said, what? He said, what do you want to make, the 5-pin or the 4-9? And he, of course, he said there was 8. But he said, after that, he said, I actually got to manage the pocket. Well, then he becomes, he wins 10 of the first 23 tournaments. I mean, geez, maybe let's be serious, right? And he said, the way he said, but when he came to St. Louis, he hooked the ball. But he was so good in Indianapolis, he was, and everything. And he comes, and of course, his name gets bannered around with the best ever, and there is no best ever. It's your generational thing. Yeah. Right now it's Belmo. There's no doubt. And EJ and Anthony and Kyle and Chris, and they're there, but like Walter was the best of his time, hands down. He's 7-time bowler of the year. And it's a different game. Yeah. And Earl, 6-time bowler of the year. Mark 4 times. Some stuff before the lane maintenance program. The only guy to repeat as bowler of the year was Billy Hardwick to win it twice. Wow. So the lane maintenance program comes out to create equity, right, on the tour. And in the next 11 years, there's only 3 bowlers of the year: Earl 6, Mark 4, and Wayne Webb once. Wow. But it was brought to equity, yeah, left to right, and then it got to the point where it was left to left and right to right. Strokers, crankers, hook ball speed, whatever. But I mean, yeah, that was the complaint. It's unfair. Mm-hmm. All these different people were bowlers of the year. Yeah. All of a sudden, it comes on. The Coco. I think the first. McCune was bowler of the year. Don Johnson 2 years before that. Burton before that. All of a sudden, it was Earl, Mark. Did you ever talk to me? Did you have Don on the show, McCune?
No, I had his grandson came on.
Oh, Kevin?
Yeah.
I don't know Kevin. I know Eugene. Eugene's terrific too. As a matter of fact, I was just with talking to one of Eugene's best friends ever, Ryan Schaefer, just last on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I always, I felt sorry for Don. He was even always he's the only bowler of the year that got in on the senior ballot.
Okay.
I mean, because of what the situation was, and I'll be honest with you, I never. He got branded as a cheater for the people that didn't know anything, and he didn't break any rules because there was no rule about it. And he went to a story is he goes to a chemist or something, and he wants to talk to him about a white or tire print on the ball. What do you throw? Polyester, any acetone solution. And he used toluene. He didn't use methyl ethyl ketone. He used toluene. And the ball that responded the best for him was a Salmon Crown Jewel. And I mean, it just, and if you ever go back and see some of the old shows, he didn't hook the ball like the guys do now.
Yeah.
But he had a little bit more, I can tell you what, guy from the California who recently passed away a couple years ago, Don Bell. You probably never heard of him. He was the starting goalie for the American national soccer team.
Okay.
So this guy's a stud. And he comes out and he's this real athletic looking guy. And he throws the ball straighter than a string, yellow dot. And all of a sudden, they come out with an LT-48, a texturized rubber ball.
Yeah. And
Don Bell now no longer goes 9-10 or 10-10. Guess what? Now he's going 12-9.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that looks like? It looks like when that happens to you, like you can't throw it in the gutter.
Right.
He made a couple of television shows and actually led a tournament. Got beat by Malacosta, his buddy is in Northern California. But all of a sudden, he can strike now because he was deadly accurate, but the ball never, even the Elena didn't do much.
Right.
The LT-48 with that print with the texturized, he threw it. He went, my God, the first time he threw it, I was like, oh my God. Like he must have felt like Belmont, like when you're this way and all of a sudden you bump in 3-1 or 4-2 and you throw it and it comes back and you go like, geez, now I know what Belmont and Anthony look like. Nah, we don't know what they look like, but if you get that feeling that you have almost like Mike Miller when he first comes back, he has unlimited right. We actually had a meeting. I was on the tournament committee and Lenny Nicholson came in. I don't know if Lenny was the lane man. Might have been Lon Marshall. Yeah, it might have been Lon Marshall. But anyway, and the question was, what do we do about the guy who bowls with no thumb? You know what they said? He has unlimited right with what we put out there. Mm-hmm. So what do we do? Because you hate to think there's all these stories about all these sports being rigged. And Tommy Hudson had a great theory. He said, this was his idea and it was fun. He opened up the drawer at the PBA with all the touring guys that are on the tournament. The commissioner goes like this, picks the card. Oh, Joe Hutchinson. Okay, Joe's to win. And he says, and the lane men knew what everybody bowled their best on.
Yeah.
They knew your head belly, they knew your ball speed, they knew your rev rate, and they knew your break point.
Yeah.
They did. They had to. And it was it was somewhat controlled. Let's put it that way. Okay. I was on that lawsuit. I don't know if Charlie told you that. We were, Charlie and I and Bill Straub, were on the lawsuit, and it turned into the dismantling of the old PBA. And a lot of guys, there's a couple of guys that still hold us a grudge with us, but they were against the antitrust laws of the United States. And let's see, Randy Peterson, Gil Sliker, Jeff Bellinger, me, Charlie, Mark Baker, Bill Straub, Pete Couture. At one time, we had over 100 names on the lawsuit. We went to court with 11 or 12. Everybody bailed off, and it was very simple why they bailed off. They were told by their sponsors or whatever, if they win, you benefit. If they lose, they lose.
Yeah.
And it was, we had a mole in the office, and Joe Antonoro passed away. I considered him a friend, and he was that. But business is business.
Yep.
And he thought that we were trying to bring the PBA down. And between me and you, if Ethan was ever watching, Mark Williams was on the lawsuit. We weren't trying to do that. We were trying to have the right to promote ourselves because we were independent contractors with them. But when we signed that card, that club, you're a member of this club, and the Constitution and bylaws had nothing to do with the laws of the United States, the constitutional law or legal law. Anyway, that if we were going from town to town and we wanted to stop and bowl a tournament, we had to call and get their permission. On a tournament, on a day that there's no PBA tournament, we had to get their permission. If you didn't get their permission, the fine was $100 plus whatever you won.
Oh,
this look. In fact, a lot of people got to hear this. Hear the story. Jeff Moran, not Jeff Moran, who made 2 shows, led Cleveland, but got beat on a show, I believe, by Ronnie Williams.
Okay,
we got beat, right? Jeff was, and I told Jeff that if I'm ever on the show, I was going to tell this story. He was one of the reasons this started. The first time we ever met to try to union, Steve Wunderlich and Kyle Shedd chaired the meeting. We had an Earl's Bowling Center in Dublin. And it was 100 guys, and it was real raucous. And we're doing this, because what happened to the USGA when the PGA broke, and all of a sudden formed their own, and then the money went up. Right, the bowlers still don't play for any money.
Right,
they don't play for any money. The year that EJ had this year, and 2 years ago Kyle had. I mean, come on. They're supposed to win a couple million, but like I said, it's seen as a pastime. It's not seen anymore as an athletic endeavor by, it seems, the people who have this money, like whether it be Wall Street or Century City or whatever it is. Anyway, he bowls a regional, he bowls the Pro-Am, he bowls qualifying, he does not cash. On his way home, he stops at a bowling center on the marquee outside tournament today. He wins the tournament. It's $1,000. The guy who was the director of the Eastern region at the time comes up and said to him, because there was a paper out every weekend in the Northeast, in Jersey and stuff like that. It was always bowling scores, but it had Moran wins, and he sees it, and he says to him, "You didn't get permission to bowl." His commitment to the PBA was done. It was done. It was Sunday. The finals are being bowled. He bowls, and they won $1,100 from him. They want $1,000 and $100, and he tells me about it. And I'll never forget. If you get him on the show, Jeff's. I said, because Jeff's won 10 or 12, 13 regionals, and I said, don't pay him. That can't be right. That can't be lawful. And they kept badgering him and badgering him, badgering him. Finally, the one time at the one tournament, they took him in the bar. You know what they said to him? Give us $500. We'll call it even. Oh, that's okay. So anyway, this gets into the thing, and Bill Taylor was back, and this, God bless Bill, it took him for broke, but he had an axe to grind with the PBA, and he thought that they didn't do a good thing for the game and everything, and whatever his thoughts. But we win the lawsuit, we win the right to do what we want in between tournaments. Go. I mean, I'd have to call and ask you if there's no PBA tournament. And then they had the distance was 500 miles. That's out of the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There's a tournament in Wilkes-Barre for $5,000 and 12 miles away. There's a tournament in Pittsburgh or Erie, 350 miles away. First place is 1,500. I got to go there. No, I don't, because I'm bowling for a living. I never bowled a PBA tournament for free. I had to pay every time to get in. Yeah. The tournament, first time I remember in the tournament of champions, you know when they said it was an invitational? You know, the entry fee was $200, and the entry fee normally was $125. I called the office, and I said I got Joe Anthony on the phone. I said, Joe, it's Joe Hutchinson. Yeah, because I won the first time, and I didn't bowl because I was hurt, so I got bumped, and I won Peoria. I got back in, and I said, according to this, I got to pay to bowl the tournament of champions. I thought it was an invitational. He goes, oh, no, Joe, there's an entry fee. I said, what if I don't want to pay it? He said, we got a standby list. That's all he said to me. Is that like that? And I go, oh, okay, so I bowl. But, I mean, it was just, we had this chance to promote ourselves. I don't know if anybody does it anymore. But I mean, I saw an article by one of the guys that used to write for the, bowling publications, and he said the one time a bunch of no-name bowlers got together. Everybody that was on that lawsuit were PBA National Tour champions. And if you think all of us were chopped liver, you're full of it. You're full of it. And we went on. We got to stay. Look, they were calling on, the office was calling homes, talking to wives of bowlers that were on the lawsuit at one time. We're going to take your house if you lose. And the guy, this is the truth. The guys were coming back, and the wives were badgering them.
Sure.
Get off that. Get off that. If they win, if they win, you win. If they lose, they lose. I mean, I could tell you some names. They did. They actually called repeatedly. One of the guys is up in New England. His good friend. I talked to him once in a while. And they knew when he was born. They were calling his wife, talking to his wife. This is what's going to happen. It was terrible. It was really, and we had no thoughts of doing a separate tour. How can you do the separate tour when Eddie Elias has network television?
Yeah.
And Eddie and I got into it one time in Florida. Eddie was a big tough guy. Grew up on the streets in Akron. He was a tough guy and smart, brilliant man. And I got to know him pretty good. And we always talked nice. But when that lawsuit was going on, he came over one day and he talked to me just like we were on the block in Akron, in no uncertain terms. He let me know that how he felt that I had betrayed him, and it happened to one time with Carmen. I have to say that Carmen, who I love, and we patched it up. But I said to Carmen, you don't see the big picture. And he says, well, the PBA gave us this tremendous chance, and they did. So I'm on the lawsuit. I come home. A friend of mine who just passed away, Judge Edwin Kozik. I can say his name because he was aces. I call him to go down, and I have the lawsuit. It's about this thick. And I said to him, I went, Your Honor, but Edwin, I played racquetball with him. I said, Edwin, I'm on a lawsuit, and I brought down a copy of the bylaws, Constitution and bylaws, and the rules. Mm-hmm. He calls his staff in, the lawyers that are under him. He says, my friend is on this lawsuit. I want you to look at it. Tell me what his chances are and if he should stay on or not. 3-4 days later, he calls me to go back down. The secretary calls me. I go walking in. I find I'm lying. I'm dying. I sit on the side. He goes in. He's sitting there. He's got his feet up on the desk. He's looking at the thing. And all of a sudden, he turns around. He throws the thing at me. He says, you stay on that till the end. You can't lose. They're in violation of the antitrust laws of the United States. What? He said, isn't this written by a lawyer? I said, well, my lawyers. I said, I don't know. He said, and then I'll never forget, I said to Edwin, I said, I'm not one of the big guys. I ain't got a lot of clout. I said, they can, what he says to me, the judge don't care if you've ever won a tournament. The judge only is completely unbiased. He looks in the law. As soon as he sees this, he said, if I was trying this case, I would call their lawyers up and I would tell them that I'm dismissing the case because it's frivolous. He said, if they gave me a problem, I would call the bar on them. Right? This is God's honest truth. Huh? And he tells me how it's going to play out. He said, you're going to call witnesses. They're going to call witnesses. He said, when both sides rest and the jury is going to be adjourned, they will raise their hand and ask to approach the bench, and at that time they will concede. So Huey Miller, I believe, was there. Gary Mage were up there. We were watching for us. And it played out exactly. They went up and they conceded. We didn't win any money. We got no money. And then I found out from Edwin where if you don't sue for money, they can't get any money either. They can't take nothing, no property off you or nothing. You just lose it, whatever the case is, right? But that's look, I'm not lying, but that's the truth. So we stayed. We did a couple things. We did something, and I think in Oklahoma or something, a show, but it never took off the way it was. But the guys that didn't take advantage of it and bowl a tournament for $5,000 when it was here instead of going over here for $1,500 because this is 400 miles away, you didn't have to call. But I don't know. I hope they still understand that. But we did not try to dissolve the PBA. I know that was not our goal. Our goal was to have our independence because we were independent contractors. We that's what we tried to get, and we got it. And you know, and it was, we didn't go around with our chest out, nothing, not a thing. I'll be honest with you. There's you hear a lot of stories, but that's the God's honest truth. I was on it right till the end, and we had a lawyer who made a bad statement. He said something about that if the players were thinking about maybe having their own tournament, and we never discussed. But he said that, and man, the PBA ran with that. They ran with it. And Chuck Pisano, I love Chuck. He was the Eastern Regional Director. He was the Secretary of Historian, and I knew Chuck. Always talked great with Chuck. And Chuck said to me, "Hutch, your guys made a mistake." I said, "They did make a mistake." He said, "Remember something." He said, "You're responsible for what your lawyers say." He said, "You're their client. You're his clients." He said, he put you, and Chuck said, "Well, he made that statement. How do you retract that? You know, what do you say? Oops, there is no oops.
You don't. It's on the public record."
And that became this whipping post, right? But when I, it's the funny part. There's a funny part to this. But when Edwin told me that, and I went to this regional tournament in Pensacola, New Jersey, Rocky Iacone's place. And Chuck was there. And I mean, Chuck and his kids, they watched me, terrific people. I walked in, I said to him, "Man, I got some good news and bad news for you, pal." He looks at me, "What are you talking about? What do you want first?" He said, "Well, give me the bad news this way I can lay." I said, "The bad news is you can't win the lawsuit." And he looks at me, he goes, "What's the good news?" "We're going to keep you Secretary Historian." I told him, and he looks at me, and I said, "Chuck," I said, "you're too smart a man to know that you can win." Chuck had a degree in journalism from Rutgers. You know, when I came out of the junior league, because I was tired of not having any competition, I went to the men's leagues. I didn't even know you could get a scholarship bowling. I had no idea that you could, right? Chuck Pisano went to Rutgers on a bowling scholarship in the 50s. He bowled everywhere from Miami to Boston in collegiate tournaments for 4 years. He told me, he said, "Hutch, it's always been there, but you got to look." So I'm at one of the academic high schools in Scranton Central. And everybody's, the couple of guys, there's, football, baseball, basketball. I'm a bowler. I didn't even think about it. Our school didn't have golf. Our school didn't have tennis. They didn't have volleyball like now. Like every school has everything. I mean, no wrestling, nothing, none of that stuff. That if you weren't one of the big four sports, we didn't have hockey or nothing like that. And I mean, you were, and we had a couple guys that were all state or all conference, and they got to go to smaller colleges. One of our guys went to Temple. It's a pretty big school, the Owls, and he played. He was starting running back for a year or so. But I mean, otherwise than that, but I mean, it was just. So I bailed at 16 years old. I'm averaging 192 in this brickyard of a bowling alley, and everybody bowled brickyard years ago. But I bowled in this place where they just didn't fall.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm bowling rubber balls, and I got thrown a ball halfway decent, but I didn't know that I could go. And but here I'll tell you a good one about the place I bowled, Green Ridge Lanes. Okay. When it opens, Vince Lucci, ABC Hall of Famer, came from Italy, lives in Jessup, Pennsylvania. Later on in his life, goes down, lives in outside Philly, by Langhorne, but he had two bowling centers, Jubilee Lanes and I think maybe Vince Lucci's Lanes, and he becomes a star. He's in the ABC Hall of Fame. He wins the all events. He's on bowling shows, and he was a great guy. I got to know him, and his daughter was beautiful, Pat Mercatanti. She wins the U.S. Open, the Ladies Pro Bowler Tour. Right?
Okay.
And anyway, he does the opening, and place is packed. I'm not there. It's 55 or 56, 54, somewhere in there, 55. I'm 6 years old. But he bowls 3 games and he bowls like 570. And the guys were there, told me the story. He leaves 18 10 pins in 3 games. He says to Sam, he says to the manager, a little Italian guy named Sam Colangelo, who was his buddy, because the owners they brought Sam in to manage the place because they shut the bowling alley. He was manager of Down and built this place and brought everybody up. Vince said to Sam, he said, "Sam, if I didn't know anybody, I'd say there's something wrong down the back." He said, "Vince, what do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, I know when I leave at 10 pin. I can tell that. He said, I left about 10 of them today, and I could swear were strikes. Well, the back of the bowling center was always cold. There was a river in the back. It was always damp. And you go in the back, the mechanic always had a sweater on and stuff like that, right? But cold, things don't move too fast in the cold. But anyway, plus the equipment, plus the legitimacy of the lanes, there was no tapering. They just oiled them. They ran the machine down.
Yeah.
They had a machine. It wasn't the bug sprayer like the PBA guys had for a while, right? Anyway, so I'm averaging 190. But anyway, the 1 year on Thursday night, bowling a commercial league, I'm making a run at average of 200. And I get to 198, and I had 600 series in a row. And this league used to be in the paper.
Yeah.
So with every week, there was a couple more people watching me. So my attention to detail is pretty good. So the next week, we're on 13 and 14. We're bowling the Bryn Mawr Cafe, owned by Mr. Joe Frankowski, who bowls on the team. I bowl for a team named Long Life Spring. And I bowled 2-0 and 2-10 the first two games, and I got like 4-15, 4-16 going. I start the last game with a double. I need like 670 to get to 200, but I got a chance if I keep bowling like this. Lane 13, third frame, I get a strike. All the pins vanish. They're gone. Something comes down from the top of the machine, stands where the 7-pin is. Now, no one could have been there and threw it because if you ever stand on top of the machine and try to throw a pin down and have it stop, you'd have to be on America's Got Talent, right?
Right.
I played a card like I know the rules. I don't know the rules. I'm walking by, and I walked by, and the scorekeeper was a guy on a team named Steve Russell, great guy. He grabs me by the arm as I'm walking by. He's Hutch, shoot the spare. I said to him, Steve, you saw it go down. And it came up. That don't count, though, right? I've been trying to play. He says, yeah, I know. I saw them all go down. But there's a pin standing you got to shoot at. So a discussion, which almost was an argument, which is the time I'm a teenager, ensues. And they come down with the rule book, and I got to shoot it. I make the spare. There's 2 4-9s, and I chop the bucket after that, and I wind up with 596. I don't bowl 600 the rest of the half, and I wind up 196. And to this day, I'll never forget that. I always thought that I eventually averaged 200 the next year, but I thought if that fell, I had a chance. But I had that happen to me, and I tell a couple guys, Joe Frankowski, Steve Russell, Walter Dusko, the other team, none of them could believe it. They saw that. They said, I never saw that before. Wonderful. But that to me was another vote. Like, I don't shoot it because, we don't have any magic here, right? Yeah. I had to shoot that. I had to shoot the spray. But then you see crazier things that pins come flying.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's been some obtuseness in the angles with the game in 60 years, right? But
sure. Hey, Jay wants to know what kind of character was Guppy Troop? He seems a bit cantankerous. Judging from the vintage,
beautiful man. He palled around with me and Charlie, and he was Guppy was worth the price of admission. He roomed with Tommy Nevitt, and actually Willie Willis roomed with him for a while. That was a good story too, but I can't say that one. That was great. That was a great story. But anyway, Guppy was 8 or 9 time titleist, and the afro used to be shaken, and he came out with the Raggedy Ann pants. To cut the pants in half. Hey, I tell you what. Remember when Ernie came out in the spaceman suits?
He talked all about it. Yep.
Catherine, he made, and he didn't come out
with
anything.
The bicentennial kid.
Yeah, he didn't come out with anything that he could get sponsored. King Louis or Mensingwear or Lamont. Catherine made them outfits, and he didn't care. But all of a sudden, everybody knew him for that, and he got in the thing in the public eye, and then they do the grips. Him and Hein Bigner. Guppy was wonderful. And Guppy had I don't know how many 300 games Guppy has because he bowled them a long time ago, rubber balls and plastic balls. But Guppy's one of them guys had a 300 stroke. He had a great, nice, shorter, free swing. He didn't have, backswing was only parallel to the floor and just silk off his hand. It was silk off his hand.
Fluid.
And I mean, 8 or 9 times and always easy to talk to, always ready to laugh. Great guy.
We're kind of closing in on 2 hours here, so I do want to kind of wrap things up, but not before I get to this part, because you mentioned Larry Lickstein once, And I did talk to him too. And I love, messaging Larry, because I'll come at him with like 3 or 4 questions and he'll respond with just one topic that always hits the mark. So, what, did you drill for him and what was he like and all this stuff. He comes back to me with, when talking to him, just say you got a message from Litchie. Litchfield says, peep it.
Yeah, he would say that, but that's okay. No, but Larry, me and Charlie started that, and it's kind of a, we used to put our finger under the guy's nose, the other guy's nose, and go like this real high pitched whistle. I can't do it anymore since the operation, but it was like, and he'd say, "You go like this, peep it," like that. Well, Charlie did it. I did it. Guppy used to do it all the time. Guppy. Last show he made all them years ago, after a while, it was his last show. A couple times you see him look at the thing, he'd go like this. He just put his finger on it, and we knew what he meant. It was just, Larry was a great bowler, and he second, I don't think 7, 8 times. He won once, and but boy, oh boy, talent. And his hero was a guy named Mike Collins, who he drilled for Larry, and Larry always said about Mike Collins, he was the best left-hander he ever saw. He was the best left-hander in New England, Mike Collins. And he was on the PBA Tour. When being a PBA bowler was something. It was something to have your card. I mean, even though it was 190 average for 2 consecutive years, you're out, you're going away. You're not here anymore. You're not the homing pigeon. You're not the guy in the same leagues in the houses, right? And Larry came out. He won the Classic Team Division. He won, I think Larry's got 2 or 3 Eagles, maybe more. And he won a tournament, bunch of shows. Tough action bowler, great for the money. I mean, his kid Michael's terrific. He has that real peculiar way of throwing it. But boy, when he gets to the line, it comes off his hand like it looks like when the ball's going down, it looks like a termite looking for wood. You know what I mean? It's just, my ball goes down. My ball's very polite anymore. My ball's very polite. Goes down, comes up to the 1-3. There's the guys. They're the guys at the door. The 5-pin's the boss. And my ball comes up and goes like this. Excuse me. Is the boss in? And the head pin, I always say like this, the head pin turns around, looks at him in the 5-pin, and I can see the 5-pin, my ball, and he says, no, he's not. And I go like, my ball goes, but I can see him. And the head pin goes, you need glasses. Now get out of here. And my ball just goes like, okay, and goes this way, and a 5-pin stand. You got to throw the ball that goes down like, and it's the 1-3 see it, and they go like, get out of the way. He's going to kill this guy. But, my ball, now, very polite, very goes, excuse me, do you don't mind if I talk to the guy behind you? Right. He's not taking any calls today, pal. Blow, So, I mean, what are you going to do? But, yeah, Larry, Pfeff, I got so many more things I wanted to talk about, how do you put 63 years in? I got to tell you this before we go. Last thing.
I do want to mention this. Look who showed up.
Chucklin' Chuck. How'd you bowl tonight? Horse's rear end.
Solid 577.
Wow. When did the league go to 2 games? That'd be solid. Yeah, 577. I had 544 the other night, and people were giving me standing ovations when I made the 6-pin. But I got in the Pennsylvania State Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Just last year.
Yeah. And I got up and I wrote an apology the next day on Facebook. I talked too long. Like, you can see how I can talk. But how do you put 63 years in 10 minutes? It's funny. I look out and I can still see my daughter standing up out of the thing, going to me like this, Dad. It's going like this, cutter. So I get done, and and what really amazed me is the couple people in there that bowled. Good bowlers, pro bowlers. You know what they said to me? Why'd you stop? Because it was entertaining. They were laughing. But the other people that are in there that are, I wasn't aware of the audience. I wasn't talking to, like when you go to the PBA Hall of Fame dinner, the Tournament of Champions years ago, everybody in there is a champion. Even though they, like the 1 year, one guy got in. He could have talked we wouldn't have cared. Yeah. We wouldn't have cared. Billy Allen gets in. And this big thing about major championships. I mean, Belmo's the leader now with 13, I think, and Earl and everything. I understand this. And I'm not saying this with any disrespect to anybody. But no bowling tournament changes your life. Golf tournaments change your life. Tennis tournaments change your life. You win the Masters in golf, my God. You win the U.S. Open in tennis or Wimbledon, my God. You win the Firestone tournament, the Tournament of Champions a couple of years ago. Somebody won the Firestone. They got $100,000. The next week, they had the U.S. Open, which used to be the All-Star, which was the premier tournament. They got $25,000 for that.
Yep.
So the disparity is crazy. But it's just I'd like to see before I die. I'd like to see. That's a crazy way to say it, but I'd like to see the men, the bowlers, period, because the women can bowl on the men's tour if they want. They can come on the tour if they want. I'd love to see the bowling tour play for what the professional women golfers play for. And that's the men golf, that's forget it. And live, forget. But the lady golfers who want to play for what the men play for. And the WNBA want to get paid like the NBA. Those are the leagues that are like that stuff. The women's soccer want to get what the U.S. team gets. I mean, I understand that. It isn't that they don't put the time in or whatever, but for some reason or other, that's the way it happens. Billie Jean King got the women equal pay in the majors, right? But I mean, the ladies golf every week is $3 million, $2 million total purse. They pay 18%. So Kyle Troop, who 3 years ago has that massive year.
Right.
And he wins. I don't know what he wins, but
$496,000.
He doesn't win. He doesn't win $500,000.
Right, but close.
Yes, but he was all everything. And the lady golfers, and I understand how difficult golf is. It's probably the hardest game in the world. That makes sense. There's these crazy games coming out where you're playing ping pong with your head with a volleyball. But their purse is $3 million. It's based on 18%. That's $540,000 to win one. Mm-hmm. So I understand. The men now it's $40 million. You get $7 million, $8 million, $10 million if you win. Your life basically is made $10 million. You're not bad at even the States. Couple, these guys. The guys that signed with Liv, John Rahm got $300 million. The guy says he's a backstabber. He's sold out. His great grandchildren aren't going to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is okay. You're going to give me this to sign. It's in the bank. It's guaranteed. It's not like the guaranteed contracts the NFL guy gets. You get $40 million now. Oh my God! You remember a guy, Bill Straub? I mentioned him before.
Yep.
Went to native of Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Goes to Nebraska. He's going to play football, and he gets hurt. And there was a guy, Mike Rozier, Heisman Trophy for Nebraska. He leaves. Defers the senior year and goes and he gets with the Houston Oilers, and they give him $10 million. At the time, it was a lot of money, and he was a great running back. He ain't going to be in Hall of Fame. The Collegiate Hall of Fame he's in. And I said to Bill, I said, they had won the national championship. He won the Heisman Trophy. Why didn't he stay the next year? He said, because they gave him $10 million, Joe. He says, and he's one play away in college from getting his knee blown out and never playing. Yeah. So you get the money. If you get hurt, okay, but you can always come back and get your degree. You got to look. I mean, I understand. I understand the loyalty thing. Mm-hmm. When Elias had the meeting with the 33 guys or whatever it was at Syracuse, and the guy, you talked to the guys who were at the meeting. Carmen was one of the guys at the meeting. Glenn Allison was at the meeting. But Eddie put it very simple. He says, I'm going to give you a chance to make more money than you've ever made in your life bowling. But you have to understand one thing. I'm going to make more money than all of you put together. He put that up front, and he says, but I'm going to get the bowling centers. I'm going to get the television. I'm going to get the sponsors. I'm going to get the money. All you got to do is come in and bowl. All you got to do is come in and bowl. You don't do nothing else for me. Just bowl. And for that, I'm going to get, because I was on the executive board at one time, and Eddie was big. He was huge with ABC. He was in charge of the Winter Olympics. That's mind-boggling. And they offered him to raise his commission in the PBA from 3.5% to 7%. He turned it down. He said, I'm doing okay. Don't worry about it. Because the PBA was his baby. That's what got him really, the notoriety.
Yeah.
And he always stayed on in a way. He was the liaison between PBA and the television, but he stepped down as commissioner and he appointed Mr. Antonora and stuff like that. But yeah, if I tell you what, we could go a lot longer. We could do this again, but
yeah,
I mean, the guys. I was only out there off and on 15 years. I didn't bowl. I don't think I bowled that many tournaments, really. Maybe 400, a little over 400, because I was hurt all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this was 8 months. This was 8 months. This was a year. And I mean, that's the first year I only bowled 4 tournaments. The second year I bowled 10. But I was full time. I think 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, like 6 years, 7 years. That's all. And but I like I said, I was okay. Plus I got to say while I'm on here, I hope Chris Barnes and Linda are watching. I was crying when his son was bowling too. I got to meet Chris. I met him a long time ago, but I got to be at the camp with him and Banks. I got to meet Linda, the Aces. And I saw him when he came over, and he was shaking. I'm starting to cry now, but it was just a special thing to watch. And I texted him. I said, because him and Linda were crying, and I said, I just want to let you know, he weren't the only one crying. Yeah. I felt so great for him. It was just fantastic because the only other guy really is Dick and Pete. I mean, Weber 26, Pete 40 or 39 titles. And I don't know that Ryan's going to win 20 because his dad has 19, but he sure looked like he has a chance to do something. He really, he looked, and he's got the pack, he's got the demeanor, he's got everything. He's got that instinct, he's young and he's hungry, and his game is superior. Mark had to be crying, Bakes, because he helped him. And,
yeah.
It's nice when you see a legacy like that.
Yeah.
So if Chris and Linda are watching, hey, congratulations. I never met Ryan. I probably will never meet him because I don't go to the camp anymore. I'm here. This is, this is where I'm at, man.
Yeah. Special telecast for the first telecast of the year. So it's kind of cool that that happened like that.
Yeah, and in your home house for the college.
Mm-hmm.
How do you beat that?
Sure. You don't. All right. So we've got lots of comments. Jay wants us to do a part 2 in the future. I'd be up for it if you are.
Absolutely.
We'll talk. Coach Randy says it's been good to see you again and hear from you. Great stories, great memories. Stay safe, young man. You're always a champ. Jay says it's
young man.
Yeah, young man.
Wow, boy, I tell you, how old is Coach Randy?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know the story. Babe Ruth called everybody kid, right?
Yeah, I
we're all kids.
At heart, and in mind. Yeah, my wife.
There we go. He says 71.
70. Oh, all right, I got you by 3 rounds. All right, yeah, okay. But you're nearing the fourth quarter like me. I got you. I understand.
Jay says it was a great run, Hutch. Thanks for sharing. But I want to, cap things off like I always do with this thing we call off the sheet. And that's where I ask you to challenge somebody else in bowling that has, passionate about the sport, has a great story to tell, to appear on a future episode. So who would you like to challenge to come on, Hutch, on a future episode of bowling? Just
like by himself, like I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, David Houston.
Okay.
John, I don't know if Johnny will do it, Petraglia, but Johnny's, my God.
Yeah.
Johnny's so good. David's such a gentleman, over and above. Johnny's got, Johnny's out there at the Golden Era. He's out in the mid-60s before he goes to Vietnam. And he's just, it was a different time. I didn't come out till 10 years after. And the difference in that 10 years and the camaraderie and what was going on in the tour, like the guys used to say, the summer tour was like a party. Every week was a barbecue. Every week was a barbecue because the first place was $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
Was any money, but they bowled and everything. And, but you've had Mark on, Doug Kent.
Nope.
Oh, Dougie's. and a great bowler and a great guy. He's just wonderful. And his son's terrific. And he's a Bills fan, wide right.
Yep.
Wide right the second time.
I cheer for him too. They're after the Packers.
Yeah.
But I felt
those guys
but
be
look,
good. And
but look, if he makes the field goal, we all know what's going to happen after that. Mahomes races down the field and they kick the field goal.
everybody seems to be blocking instead of tackling on the opposing team. Yeah, I'm watching all these conspiracy theories on thing about this, but boy, when they show it, I don't have a football team. I used to root 100 years ago for the Giants because they were always on television.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the greatest ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky enough to be alive long enough that the first quarterback that I remember was branded as the greatest ever was Johnny Unitas. I never saw Sammy Barr, Sid Luckman, greatest ever. Okay. The 60s is Bart Starr.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was under the shadow of Lombardi. Great, okay. Then after that, the Steelers win 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. Bradshaw never got the respect as being a great quarterback, but Howie Long, when he's on the NFL Today with him, says he tells you how good he was.
Yeah.
He tells you how good he was. And the guy said, well, he had all the Hall of Famers behind him. Most of those teams do when you win like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then the next, of course, Staubach's between Starr and Bradshaw. Roger wins back to back. Okay, another one. Okay, and then you get Montana, arguably, and then Elway and this, that, and everything. Marino, the greatest who never won the Super Bowl, and that's possibly. So now you're here with Brady. Yeah. 7 this and it's just it's great armchair quarterback or Monday morning arguing things and stuff like that. But you the more you now it's Michael and LeBron now and everything and Wilt doesn't even get a vote.
Oh.
Which is crazy. Or Kareem doesn't get a vote.
Yeah.
And and of course, nobody roots for Goliath. So if you're over 7 foot, everybody else is David with the sling. But I mean, there's so many guys that are people that are so great. Like, but I was fortunate enough to have a great friend in Patty Costello. Remember her?
Yeah.
The left-handed bowler she was born in Scranton, wound up down in the Baltimore area, passed away a couple of years ago here with cancer. And it took over 20 years, 25 years to break the records that she had put up.
Sure.
Alita Silbroker and Alita is great, and all the other ones. But Patty was, they had this thing in the East called the Wausau's, the Women All-Star Association. Mm-hmm. She won 26 of those, I think, and she come in second probably 30 times. And because of her, they had to drop the pins after qualifying, or she'd have won 50. Hmm. And this was a scratch thing, and the women thought they were pretty good. And Gert Downey and Pearl, I can't remember the other lady. They called Patty could you come and bowl this and give us some respect? Like we a couple. Robin wasn't who she was yet, and there was other, but Patty was a star, and she comes and bowls, and then all of a sudden, all the girls are like, wait a minute, she's 200 pins ahead, and we only got 3 games to go, or whatever, and they start dropping the pins, and she still won 26.
Yeah,
and she was, she was special, and I got to know her, and I could tell you the story the next time about how we first met, and it was great, absolutely great. But look, we got to go. But those guys I gave you, Doug Kent, Davey Houston, Johnny Petraglia, just they would. The stories are fantastic, and they give you different insights into the game, and David's in the Hall of Fame, and Johnny's in the Hall of Fame, and Doug's in the Hall of Fame. So right away, they're people that I know that their talent in this game is greater than mine, and I have no. Look, Dave, if I have no problem, if I'm the only PBA champion in a bowling center, if I'm standing there, I'm the only guy that's won. I have no problem thinking that my record is the best in the building. I don't care how many local tournaments you won, because I won plenty of those. Yeah. The minute if Doug comes in, I'm second. The minute if Johnny comes in, I'm third. If Parker comes in, I'm fourth. And I have no problem. The one thing we did, the camp, check your ego at the door, man.
Mhm.
We busted each other's chops and everything. But and of all the guys on that at Camp Bakes, my credentials were at least. I had the least amount of shows. Me and Mark have the same amount of wins. I had the least amount of money. But Mark and I are best friends. I should have told you a story about him with my mother, but I can't do it. We still got time for that?
Let's do it the next time because
the one with my mother always gets raved.
I've heard it and it's worth hearing. So I like to kind of tease that to
Who
next
told
time.
You, Mark Baker?
No, I heard you on another show do it.
I guess the people are right. I got a big mouth. Yeah.
You've been on a few, but
right.
No, that's fantastic. Dave, Johnny, Doug, if you're watching and you want to take him up on his challenge, either find me on Facebook or email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com.
Yeah, well, I got you. I got you on here.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Next show coming up Tuesday, January 30th. Phil Stellmaker from the Rochester, Minnesota area going to come on and talk about his bowling story. Can't wait for that one against
Bill Stellmaker. Phil.
Yep. Phil.
Okay, so give me a quick question. Who is he?
Okay, so he is a bowler from Rochester, Minnesota, around that area.
Yeah.
Bowls some local tournaments in Minnesota. I think I've seen him in Wisconsin, maybe Iowa. Again, this show is for anybody.
I got you.
So
it's not pros only.
It's not pros only. No, absolutely. So Phil will be on next week. But thank you so much.
Did you have Norm on yet? Norm Duke?
I haven't on the live show. I need to do that. I've recorded something with him and with Bakes, but we haven't had him on the live show.
This before we go, he told me one time, he said, Hutch, he said, and this is crazy. He says, Hutch, I want to tell you something. He said, you know that I'm my mother's favorite bowler. I said, well, of course. She said, you're her second favorite bowler. I looked at him, I said, shut up. And she was at one tournament one time, walked by and I talked to her and she was so nice. And I said, really? He goes, I'm telling you. He said, she really likes you when you're on. She likes when you're on the show. You're funny. I said, she didn't say nothing about my bowling. I was just funny. She goes, yeah. He says, I don't know. Yeah.
There you go. That's half the battle. All right, everyone. Well, that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you again next time. Until then, be just, fear not, and have a great week.